when you are at a very high spiritual state, then you find somebody of that state, and there will be a certain degree of matching and what you call it, for lack of better words, a resonance. Okay, things will be more mature. Things will be fine. But the initial stages, people when they normally get married at the initial stages of their own spiritual growth, at the initial stages are there. So you are not perfect at that time. You are still on the path, right? So there is still ego. There is still various other factors that will come in. And that is going to cause disturbance in the equation. So we have this very romantic idea that there is, this perfect partner. Very rarely it happens. Practically very, very, very rare. And some of the greatest yogis, if I may put it this way, and this may sound very dark also, some of the greatest yogis had very bad married life.
Do people want things other than just spiritual growth?
Lot of people are deep. The heart is the most peculiar thing in the human being. It has all sorts of desires. So never listen to what a person says. Never listens to, I'm just saying, that's the truth, by the way. So to judge a person, observe what he is doing. That will give you that what is the secret motivation in the heart. Sometimes people are motivated by desires which they are consciously not aware of. Ask them, why do you want to do sadhana? No, I want to reach spirituality, this, that. Some tote ki tarah rata hua, some statements they will put. Okay. And I can sense that his energy is nowhere close to that. That mumukshata, that thing is not there in him. Give him some sadhana, after some days, ye nahi ho raha, wo nahi ho raha, because that energy is not there.
I'm not going to make this intro very long. This is one of the most demanded guests of the year. Rajarshi Nandy is back to teach us everything about Shiva and Bhairav. It's a free-flowing, open, deep conversation, and it's the first of 4 conversations that we did in the 2 days that Rajarshi Nandy spent in our studio. Lots of spiritual knowledge, lots of Tantra-based knowledge. This is Rajarshi Nandy's return on TRS. I am super excited to have you back, Rajarshi Nandy sir. How are you?
I'm good. Joy Maka, Joy Bhairavas. Good to be back. Good to meet you. Good to meet the team again.
I know that audiences are also extremely excited for this new series to begin.
Yeah.
The last time you were here, we were in the middle of our whole horror year.
Right.
We were doing a lot of horror-related content.
Yes.
I don't know whether I did that willingly or whether I did it to feed into the trend of that time, but it was what it was. Things have changed. I think audiences want even deeper content in 2023.
Okay.
I will definitely say that you were one of the guests of the year last time. So why do you think people loved what you were talking about so much over those 5 episodes we did?
Namaste to everybody once again, whoever is watching. Those episodes did have a strong impact. I felt it because afterwards, right when those episodes were released, my mailbox was flooded with innumerable emails, so that I had to open a new email ID. Even that got flooded to the extent that I can hardly check 3 or 4 mails a day. It's all sorts of things. I believe this question can be answered at multiple levels. One is that, of course, there's a curiosity about it. What exactly happens? Perhaps a practitioner speaking about it is a bit different from somebody who's a researcher or somebody who's read books and speaking. That one thing. But there is another reason, I believe, which is that I speak with my friends often that how did I end up in your show in the first place? I had no specific interest to appear there. My life was going on as it was. Even when there was a first contact from your team, I was still in 2 minds whether to go. First of all, coming here is a lot of, for me, it's a bit of a hassle and things like that. And then one day I was doing my Nitya Upasana, which I do of the deities I love and worship, and specifically of Bhairavas. So, as I was doing it, there's a certain intuitive communication that happened. And it told me that basically that, within some time there's going to be a call that will come from these people, and they will give you a date that can we do it on this date, which is very important for Bhairava. And you just go there.
And that wasn't our intention.
I know.
We didn't even know that it's an important spiritual
I
thing.
know. Moment the date came, first thing I remember, I told that give me half an hour. Half an hour was not to check whether I can go, whether I have other engagements and all that. Half an hour was to check that I opened the Panchang, to check what is the date exactly. And then I saw that that is the Bhairav Jayanti of the year. Then I thought, no, nothing, there's nothing to think. When there's a command that comes from the deity, you follow it. You don't question, because your mind is, you are a human being. So, tum kitna jaan sakte ho? They know it way more. I said, okay, I'm coming. And I had no other preconceived ideas, why I'm coming there, what are we going to talk. I have nothing, no idea. In fact, to be very honest, I was even thinking that, with a name like BeerBiceps, I was thinking, how is this content going to match with maybe whatever you do? So with a complete clean slate and open mind, I came here. I believe it's some blessing of the forces, the devatas, the deities I love. They have something in plan. We are just pawns. That's all.
And so, next question for you. What is today?
Today is, interestingly, an Ashtami Tithi. Of all, that was an Ashtami last year. Ashtami is the Tithi is the Tithi loved by Bhairava.
What does that mean? When you say that it's an Ashtami,
yeah,
what does it mean?
So, very simply, the moon changes its phases. There is the Krishna Paksha when the moon is, it's diminishing to Amavasya. And then there is the Shukla Paksha, which is the bright fortnight that happens. Okay. So these form, the angular distance between the sun and the moon forms a Tithi, which is one of the elements that is used in Jyotisha and also for all religious festivals in the Hindu calendar is based on Tithis, among other things. Okay. Now, each of these Tithis, on the one side you have the Purnima, which is the full moon, and the other side you have the Amavasya, which is the new moon or no moon night. Okay. In between, Ashtami is the 8th Tithi. Now, most of the deities in the Hindu pantheon, within Dharma that we worship today, have specific liking for specific Tithis. Their energies become more active on those Tithis. Bhairava's energy becomes most active on Krishna Paksha Ashtami. But other Ashtamis also his energy is active. Krishna Paksha is peak active. Other Ashtamis also his energy is active. Ma Durga's energy is also activated on Shukla Paksha Ashtami, which is the bright side moon, 8th Tithi, whereas the dark side moon's 8th Tithi is Bhairava's Tithi. So in general, Ashtami is when, if you are not an upasaka, it doesn't make a difference. If you are an upasaka, it's like, upasana is like, it's like a love affair. Initial stages, it's a one-sided love affair. Because you are going to trying to please somebody who's not interested in you. For that, you have to keep trying. And this is not like a human love affair, which is for a 1 day, 2 day, 3. No, you keep trying for lifetimes. You've been doing that in past lives. You do that naturally. That tendencies are there. So wherever you may be born, whatever circumstances, you're still pulled by nature back into the path. Start off. As you go deeper, the Tithis become very important. It's like this. So you think that this is the Tithi that the deity I'm worshipping likes. So that becomes important for you. It's just like a normal, if you're trying to woo somebody, if you love somebody. So you think, what does that person like? What dress does that person like? Okay, what food does that person like? Same thing. What is the bhog that I have to give to Baba if I'm doing Bhairava Upasana? What is the Tithi that he likes? So that Tithi I do something extra, something special. Maybe I'll fast that day. Maybe I'll do a little bit more sadhana that day. Sadhana is contemplation of the deity.
Well, contemplation of the deity means when you sit in meditation, you do a mantra chant or you think about the deity.
So those are techniques of contemplation. But eventually, whether you are doing meditation, whether you are doing mantra japa, or whether you are doing any other ritual, there are more other rituals also possible, you are basically trying to connect to the energy of the deity.
Okay.
And that is in a very simplistic language. Let's say that is a form, these are all forms of bhakti only. This is a form of bhakti, a devotion, a contemplation of the deity. For that, I can chant mantras of the deity. I can meditate on the deity. I can draw yantras of the deity. Okay, things that he likes. Why am I doing this? So that eventually he will take notice. Acha, this guy has been trying for a long time.
How long is the eventually?
That is up to him.
And up to the subjective reality of the sadhak.
Yes, absolutely. Subjective reality of the sadhak is because, small digression, there is a famous story that's there in the Buddhist lores, which says that when Buddha attained to his nirvana, one of the first things he did was that he bowed down to all the Buddhas who had come before him, to all the Buddhas who will come after him. Okay. The gist of this story is, the way I look at it is that you are never cut out from the past and the present. You are a moment in a continuum of time that is going on. You have done things in past, many past lives you have been born, some things you have done, some family, some connection to somebody, etc. And you have to navigate through that. Same thing happens with upasana also. You have been worshipping a specific devata in certain past lives and you have reached a certain stage. Naturally in your next life, wherever you may be born, a certain threshold has been crossed, means you will feel a natural tendency towards that deity, wherever you find. Even if you were born into a culture that is completely different, has no conception of the deity, still the moment you see that, moment you are in a place of that deity, you will feel that natural connection. You will not understand it. Understanding takes time. That is Maya, because that is Bhagavati's domain. She does this beautiful job. The moment you are born, veil. Bas. You don't remember your past, which is very good. Which is very good. Imagine you remember your past. Suppose you had suppose an ex individual had a very bad equation with somebody who becomes his parent in this lifetime. So your mind is going to get biased. Nature is not asking you to work in a biased way. Nature is giving you certain natural faculties of your emotions, your rational judgment, things like that. Use those in a fair manner, with a fair sense of justice and injustice, that is dharma and adharma, and you carry on. But if you already know ki with this particular friend I'm going to have a fight after 2 years, it's going to bias your equation with him. Nature doesn't want that. You cannot, with that information, you cannot live life normally.
Do you meet new souls in every birth, or are you just meeting the same souls again and again?
It's a complicated question. And as a caveat, let me tell you that this is what I'm saying is what I understand of these things, because this is not like science ki perfect answer is this.
Sure.
Lot of the souls you will meet are people you have met in past. Okay. So there is a strong abiding connection that will happen. But there will also be some whom you may meet very casually. Okay. Now, whom you meet and whom you do not meet also depends on your spiritual growth. This is very important. A lot of people who may not be into spirituality, they lead life their life is a reaction. So I get this question very often, sometimes in emails, and I find it always funny. So there are people who send mails and, what is the purpose of my life? Okay. And I find it funny. Why? 99.99% people have no purpose in their life. They are reacting to things that they have already done. That's all. Reaction is organic reaction. Organic means, suppose I'm sitting going on the road and somebody goes and just brushes past me. The immediate reaction, aise kyun kiya? Immediate organic reaction. So your life is a reaction to things that you have done. Goal and all that comes back if you have been thinking of a specific purpose for multiple lifetimes, that I want this, I want this, I want this, whatever it could be. So you want to become a great musician. Okay, you've been trying for it. Maybe you're not too good at this lifetime. 2-3 lifetimes you've been trying. Now nature says that, okay, this lifetime I'm going to give you that. Okay, I will give you the potential for great music. I'll give you the circumstances for manifesting. It could be that you are a great musician, but nobody knows about it. Your neighbor doesn't know that you are a great musician. Ho sakta hai. Nature suddenly says, no, this lifetime, I'm going to take you to a realm where a level of recognition that you have desired and that level of potential both. Then there is a purpose. Purpose comes in when you have been doing a specific, holding on to a specific aim for few lifetimes at least. Same goes for sadhana.
So anyone who achieves greatness in our world has actually wished for that greatness since 2 or 3 lifetimes?
Yes, more or less that is a set.
Okay. Now we'll go hyper low level and hyper personal to me, not to you.
Okay.
We'll go hyper personal to you also in some time. 30 years of my life have passed. I assume I'll die at 90 or 100. I'm assuming if I have a good life. That means 2/3 of my life are left. Is the 2/3, which is 60 to 70 years remaining, is 60 to 70 years enough to achieve nirvana or moksha?
So you are not an exclusive moment. Your life of 60 years is not 60 years. It is through past lives that is coming. If the preparation is there, you can get it in one day. If the preparation is not there, you may not get it in 10 lifetimes.
So let's take this one day example. That means maybe you've lived your life like a normal human being till 30, you've earned money, you've gone to college, you've gotten married. And then suddenly a circumstance will come into your life and you'll realize that, oh, wait, now I'm suddenly spiritual.
Yeah.
We've had people like that on the show as well. Dada Shri Ji, he just said he was in the train one day, going back from his college. I think he was a doctor, resident doctor at that point. He was going back home and he started getting voices in his head, randomly out of the blue. Never had spiritual incline or anything. And those voices led him into like a whole spiritual journey. These things can happen.
Yes.
As a function of time.
Yes.
So maybe you cross age 33 or 34.
Yes.
Suddenly circumstances can happen.
Correct. Absolutely.
That's how it works.
Yes.
And this is based on your hard work of your past life.
Everything is based on hard work. Never in life, never ever in life, anything good is achieved without hard work.
Okay.
And that specifically includes sadhana. If you see somebody who has achieved a fantastic amount of spiritual growth suddenly, genuine spiritual growth suddenly, be sure that he or she must have worked for it in past lives. Nature is never going to give you something without hard work. And that's the one thing I tell people if I'm guiding somebody in sadhana, that when you start your spiritual practice, initially one thing that happens to people is that if you are a little bit sensitive, if your basic parameters are set, so if you do the correct practice, initially your graph will go like this. So you'll have a lot of experiences. Bahut maza aayega. Then suddenly one day it will go like this. Okay. That is where the test is. And that is where you do not know. You keep doing your practice. Kuch nahi hone wala hai. Nothing is going to happen and you are keeping going like this. Okay, you are wondering that why am I not getting an experience? Why is this not happening? And that can go on for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even lifetimes. And then suddenly a point will come when everything that you have done is like, it's like a dam being held. It's not being given to you for certain purposes which you do not have the ability to comprehend also at that time. And one day, nature will decide, okay, now I'm going to give him everything that he has done. And the very next day suddenly is, and people, wow, something miraculous has happened and this guy who was just doing kuch to apna hi chal raha tha, suddenly he has turned into something different. But there is never any good thing without hard work. There are no miracles in this. It's a process.
Okay. This podcast is around the Shiva theme. But I feel like asking you about something called prebiotic earth.
Okay.
Okay, which is earth before biology.
Okay.
Like the earth was formed out of like a part of the sun, I believe.
You're right.
I think that's one theory. And the other theory is that it was a coagulation of possible multiple meteorites that came together. I think it was actually a part of the sun.
Okay.
Which went away from the sun and then kept revolving around it.
Right.
And we are just in a phase of time where there's too many factors that are conducive, including our gravity, including the fact that some comet with water hit this rock, etc., etc. At the time of prebiotic earth, there wasn't even fungus. Like, there was no biology on this planet. We were just hydrocarbons burning. Were deities on earth at that time?
I believe that deities were there from a very ancient time, even perhaps before the formation of earth.
Okay. Let me ask you about the birth of deities then.
Okay.
When did the birth of deities happen? Did it happen at the Big Bang?
So from a scientific perspective, again, what I'm telling is more kind of a speculative answer.
Sure.
So there is, the way I look at it, being a Shakta, fundamentally, worshipper of Shakti. So first, there is what we call the Adi Shakti. She's, when there was nothing, okay, there is this Sukta of the Rig Veda which says, that describes that there is, when there was nothing, absolutely, That time too, there was something that, something existed which was beyond what you can imagine. Okay, so that condition of before the creation of forms, there are two. Let's just to break it down. Let's just say that there are two stages. One is that when things are formless and when there is a formed. Okay, so this stage when things are completely formless, it's a misconception, by the way, among people who believe that the formless is higher than the formed. I believe that no, the formless is not at all higher or lower or anything of that sort. It's two phases of one energy. That's it. Okay, it doesn't make it lesser or more or something like that. It's just a human perception. So once initial stages, there is the Adi Shakti, the ultimate form of energy, whom we call the Divine Mother. Okay, whose origin cannot be found
or understood.
Found, nothing. It's like that moment of singularity you have. Just to give an example, I'm not saying that everything is scientific. Dharma is its own way, science is its own way. But since we landed in this section of the conversation, so it is like that what science defines as singularity or something that which you cannot define as a clear answer. So this energy, this Divine Mother whom we worship as the Adi Shakti, her source is unknown to anybody. It's perhaps beyond the mental comprehension. So there are three stages, three things that the mind can comprehend. One is that which is difficult. Okay, you may say that this task is difficult. Then there is something that is very difficult to achieve, but at least in the imagination you can achieve. Okay, some weird thing, say, okay, in imagination can go anywhere. In the imagination, I can go to the sun right now. Okay, doesn't mean I'm physically going. So it's very difficult task to achieve, but at least the imagination can go. And then there is a third stage where the imagination also cannot go. It's beyond human imagination. It is from that kind of a source that is the Adi Shakti. Okay, from Adi Shakti, or in another scheme, Para Bhairava. Okay, so this thing, this great force, this being, we don't know much about it. Okay. We worship that energy. It's not even like a being. It's not like somebody sitting in a throne and judging. No, it's not like that. It's entirely different, and it reveals itself only to those who have that capacity and go to that state slowly. Okay, little bit. From there, it evolves downward. It sends its energy downward into creation. And the first stage, from there, the deities are formed, different deities. Okay, the great gods whom we worship from that Adi Shakti. And each of them, very interestingly, is given its own domain and independence to function. It is not even that it's like this. Suppose fuel or petrol is used in car. So you can use the same petrol in 5 different cars. Each of the cars are independent to go wherever they want to go. It is the petrol that is driving all the cars, but the cars are independent. Similarly, the gods are independent in their function and their attributes and their domains. So there is a certain sense of, there's a freedom that is given, and yet it is that energy which is driving. From there, slowly, there is in Kashmiri Shaivism, they have this idea that the world is created by Shakti. Okay, Shakti of Shiva, and is Swatantra. The word is very interesting, they use Swatantra. Swatantra means absolutely independent. Independent means, if you think about it, none of us are independent. Today, if you have to just, without telling anybody, you decide, okay, I just go and, with some friends, 3-4 days, you take a car, and your parents will be worried, your friends, baki, others will be worried. So you are not entirely independent. Nobody in the world is entirely independent. Your independence is contextual. Okay. But there is this great force which is absolutely independent. Okay. And from there it decides that it curtails itself. And slowly it starts coming down into the material and creates the material world.
You're talking about God and the creation of our realm.
Yes. And in that creation process, first thing that comes is the deities.
Okay. As in, this reality is so crazy that we can't even imagine what it is. But in order to express itself to our realm, it has to simplify itself, which means it removes some parts. After it removes its true nature, it becomes God. When it removes more of itself and then tries giving us a vision of itself, it expresses itself as deities.
To some degree, But I will not use the word God here because I'll use the word divine. Okay, the divine mother or divine. Let's put the word divine. Ultimate divine. Okay, because the God has its own connotations. I don't want to go into that complexity, that aspect. So, but basically, from there is the first term is the deities, the devatas, the great gods, the great divines. Okay, devatas we call it. So that is Shiva is there, Ganpati is there, or Hanumanji is there, or these are the great ones. Okay, each one of them also, by the way, has the independence to manifest himself as the supreme or herself as the supreme. Okay, so which means that somebody who is worshipping Shiva eventually will see Shiva as everything. Somebody who is worshipping, say, Lord Rama will see Rama as everything. Because each one has the ability to manifest also, because they're so close to their ultimate reality. Even their level only we can't imagine. Forget the ultimate reality. Even their level also you cannot imagine. And for all purposes, they're eternal, because you don't know how long back they came into existence. Okay, and this is something I tell people tomorrow. By some unfortunate incident, if all all life on earth goes away, the deities will still exist. They have been there for a very long time. And they will be there till the end of what you call dissolution, until a new cycle again starts off. From there, the energy comes down into the creation of material earth, and then there is an evolutionary process or whatever happens, and then humans come into the scene. So humans are like, and in this regards, I follow Sri Aurobindo's writings. I find him to be a great philosopher. So humans are like this middle creature. There's a part in the humans which can go downwards towards the lesser realms, let's say the darker realms. At the same time, there is a part in humans which, if correctly channelized, can also manifest the gods, the devatas.
You mean we can evolve?
Yes. Even in flesh.
Even in flesh means?
Even in flesh means while you're still alive.
You can reach the level of a god?
Theoretically.
And not everyone does, because nature also has a role to play there. You can put in your hard work, but then circumstances may not be.
A lot of other factors play a part. And reaching to the level of the gods is not at all easy. That's why I say that in theory it is possible. Of course, in practice, rarely if ever somebody reaches that stage. So this is the basic format of creation, sort of. Okay. So we, for average human beings, it is very good to worship the devatas, the primary deities, gods we have, because each of them are so connected to the source that they can, if they want specific individual, they can take you to that state.
Okay.
Each one of them.
Okay. There's a beautiful bookstore in Juhu called Granth, where I go just to relax. And I found a section about the occult, and it had a lot of good looking books on Tantra. I didn't pick up those books because I was drawn to European Tantra, which the world calls witchcraft.
Okay.
I was like, what is this? Because when it comes to Indian actual Tantra, I have Rajarshi Nandy. But European Tantra, I want to just know what it is and see if I can draw out parallels. And there are too many parallels. They have their own versions of yantra. They have their own versions of mantras. They have their own versions of deities. In fact, I gave that book to Abhijit Chavda sir, who's another all-star on the show, because even he was fascinated for the same reason. That he has information about the Indian side, but not the international side. Now that book contains not just European lore, it contains African lore and South American lore. And they have their own list of deities like Gilgamesh, and in Africa there's a bunch of deities. In Europe there are all these archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Christopher, etc. When we are talking about Shiva, Rama, Hanumanji, they are devatas.
Correct.
They're almost next to God. And then there's possibly a slightly, I don't want to call it lower, but maybe not as evolved as these beings. There are some kind of beings there.
Okay.
Would you put Gilgamesh and all these other foreign deities in that bracket?
First of all, I can't comment on a specific deity without reading much about it, about the deity, or the tendencies of the deity if I read. But it is my strong belief that many of the great gods whom we worship Hindus worship. So in a sense, Hinduism, Dharma is one of the last of the classical religions. What I mean by classical religion is what used to be there in ancient Egypt, ancient Greece and other things where there were multiple deities, and there are certain parallels in the way worship used to happen there or not, etc. Though it is almost dead now for all practical purposes, but we are still alive, and there's culture is there, and there is a living presence of the gods among us. So we worship them not just as a dead religion, but as something that comes and people experience, and we still have saints being born of different deities and all that. I do believe that some of the devatas, some of them have appeared in other cultures also, but with the condition that they come or they manifest their power in that culture with certain modifications based on the Desh Kal Patra, the time and the context of that culture.
For example, Tibetan Buddhism, where you have Matara, you have Avalokiteshwar.
Yes.
I forgot the name that Palga Rinpoche took, but he explained a Tibetan version of Shiva as well.
Okay.
Where they believe that that deity resides on Mount Kailash.
Okay.
And that's why I want to take this conversation as well. Because we've not brought it up on the show in a very long time, and we used to talk about Mount Kailash a lot. I actually don't know the geopolitical angle right now on Mount Kailash. I believe you're not allowed to go there as a tourist anymore.
Yeah. And also Kailash is one of the peaks where you cannot climb to the top, because all the religions which consider Kailash as divine, so it's the standard belief that you are not to climb to the top. So there's no mountaineering also allowed in Kailash. So you can climb the Everest, which is a taller peak. Kailash, no. There's only a limit till which you can go, and then you can do circumambulation, pradakshina and all that.
What do you think is actually up there? What will you be able to physically see Shivji, because they say is the abode of Shivji and Parvati Ma?
So what do you mean by physically seeing a devata?
You tell me. Like, do you see a man wearing a leopard skin with a cobra around his neck, meditating?
A deity is fundamentally without a specific form. It's an energy. It is no physical presence. Okay. So like you and me, we have a physical solid presence. So a devata is not something that has a physical solid presence. It can manifest itself as physical solid presence. It has lot of different abilities. That is why we worship devatas in the first place. But they do not fundamentally have a physical presence. They don't like to come into the physical plane because it curtails their powers. It curtails their freedom. Okay. One thing. The other thing is that the image that you have of a devata, for us, for example, like Lord Shiva, etc. And this becomes very important. This image is also inspired by the deities onto the minds of the rishis and the great masters.
You mean the rishis and the great masters drew it out artistically?
Whether they drew it out or they reflected in their mental eye. Okay, this is how Shiva is to be. But which Shiva? There are so many versions of Shiva. Do you know that when we there's a belief, for example, that the Shiva that we kind of worship is the one who resides in Kailash. Okay, he's the one. Then there is one Shiva that is even beyond, that is Parashiva. Just like I was saying Parashakti, that being can also be Parashiva. Parashiva is beyond forms, beyond any conception. Okay, and almost nobody can worship Parashiva. Let's just put it this way. That which you cannot even imagine, how the hell are you going to worship? You have no idea what it is. Okay, it doesn't even demand your worship, by the way. That is the interesting thing.
What is it up to?
Nothing in its own delight.
It's just in a format of ecstasy.
For lack of better words.
Because we can't describe in words what it's up to.
From there, we have the Shiva who is in Kailash. Okay, Lord Shiva, whom we worship. So he is, the scriptures mention that he is one of the ones who called the Srikanta Rudra. Okay, he's one of the forms of Rudra. So in, for example, as I was just now mentioning in Kashmiri Shiva philosophy, they believe that in Satya Yuga, one form of Lord Shiva appeared, which is the Swachandanath. They call him Swachanda Bhairava. He had 18 arms and certain manifestations and certain figures. He came and he gave the Shaiva Tantra to the world. It's like the philosophical path of worshipping Shiva, which can benefit the world. Okay, and then this knowledge was also lost for some time. Then again in Kailash, Srikanta Rudra came. He called Rishi Durvasa one day and he told him that I am giving you this knowledge. You disseminate this knowledge into the world of men so that it benefits them. So from there, multiple lineages of Shiva came out. Okay. So there was 3 primary philosophical manifestations of Shiva came out, which is that one is they call the Shiva Siddhanta, which is today popular in South India, where it's a dualistic worship. Okay, so dualistic means there is the Devata you worship and you are here. There is always a difference between the two. Okay, so that is dualistic. Then there is the these were given through the agamas. Agamas are shastras, texts which have come. Agama means something that has come earlier. Okay, so 92 agamas were given. Of these, there were Shiva agamas, there were Rudra agamas. Rudra agamas is how to worship Rudra. So equation with Rudra has to be partially monistic, partially dualistic, which means, it's very interesting, which means that there is a duality. You are not him, but there is some connection also. There is, at one point you are also like him. Okay, this is called as partially dualistic, partially monistic. And then the third set of agamas, which is Bhairava agamas. Shiva in his form as Bhairava, he is monistic. Monistic means eventually you will become the state what is called Bhairavoham. You are Bhairava. Eventually, not on day one, eventually at the highest stage.
Let me just say, no one's spoken about this concept of Shiva with so much depth on the show ever. And that's why I was looking forward to this conversation. Okay. Basically 3 forms.
No, there are more forms of Shiva. I am just giving the large format of it.
Okay. You're also kind of explaining how to evolve yourself as a human to absorb it. You're explaining it from that perspective.
And also to tie it back to the previous point from where this came out, this stream of conversation. So each of these forms has its own depiction. Dhyana. Bhairava has a particular form. Okay. He is terrifying. Shiva is Shanta. He is very calm. And there is the format which is worshipped in South India and a lot of places. Somaskanda, where Shiva is there, Parvati is there, 2 children are there. It's family man. Okay. Very happy family man sitting down. You are worshipping. Just, Bhairava is just the opposite, sort of. The ferocity is there. He holds the Trishula. He's like somebody who's in a terrifying form. Okay. The word Bhairava itself has various meanings. One of the meanings is that he's a little terrifying.
Okay. Because this is a very high level conversation, again, I'm going to bring it down to a low level. And I've noticed over the course of doing the podcast that the easiest way for people to understand this is personal experience. And I'm shameless. I'll reveal the secrets about my life. Okay. Let's talk about the first time we met.
Okay.
It was Kal Bhairav Jayanti.
Kal Bhairav Jayanti.
I didn't know it. We didn't plan it like that.
Right.
It wasn't just a blockbuster series of podcasts, but it was a major shift in my own spiritual journey. Okay. Parallelly, I want to take you to a podcast I did in the Hindi show with Sanjay B. Jomani, who's a numerologist. Okay. And he has a habit of, when he's chilling with you, he will notice the number of your office, your address. He will see the Ranveer Show and then calculate the number according to numerology and give you a suggestion. So he said that the Ranveer Show adds up to number 7, which is a psychic number. But he's like, if you want mega recognition and material success, then change it to something. He gave me a suggestion. And a part of me didn't want that because I like it being in a bit of a psychic realm. And maybe we do get a lot of viewers, but maybe we're not where we could be in terms of maximum views. And I'm okay for just the 2 million, 2.5 million people to benefit spiritually. So I know that episode wasn't just important for me, or those episodes weren't just important for me, they were important for all the viewers.
Correct.
You shifted something in at least the culture of TRS, and I'm hoping like you created a small ripple in Indian culture as well. From whatever I've learned from you, this is the will of the deities.
Yeah.
Right? The deities are acting through you.
Yeah.
What is happening in the world of the deities? That's one part of the question. Now, to bring it to a low level, I'm going to talk about how you introduced me to Kal Bhairav. A year before I met you, I'd gone to the Kal Bhairav temple in Banaras where things had shifted for me. And when I met you, you actually introduced me to something called Batuk Bhairav.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say the mantra?
Absolutely. No. But speak of Batuk Bhairav.
Okay. I have said the mantra on a previous episode.
Oh, it's okay. No problem.
Okay. There is a word in that mantra which goes Reem. What does that even mean? What is Batuk Bhairav? What are the Bhairavs? Because what I have seen shift in my life after I've started this mantra is a deep affinity towards Shiva. I've had dreams related to it. I've had very intense experiences in my meditation related to Shiva. And everything in my material life is moving too fast. Be it new people coming in, material opportunities, growth, everything you can think of from a material perspective has just become extremely speedy. And at the same time, I'm partially overwhelmed and I partially feel very capable and brave to be able to deal with the speed. This wasn't there earlier in my life. My whole 20s, I dealt with so much self-doubt that self-doubt has just gotten erased to the degree where you can't even see, the marks of it. That's the personal level input. What have you made me do, sir?
No, I did nothing. Whatever thoughts came, I told you. You did the sadhana and you saw the results. Why is dharma called Sanatan? Sanatan means eternal. That is because what was done thousands of years ago, the practices, if you do it today, still you will get results. And if 10,000 years later people do it, still they'll get results. It is not a individual's property. I didn't invent anything. I'm just an ordinary person going about my lives, ended up in your show. That's about it. It's the deities who do things. Be very clear. That also keeps your ego under check. The moment you start believing that I can do anything, somebody upstairs will start laughing. Okay. They'll just pull the rug from under your feet and all mera jitna vidya hai and all that whatever you know will start falling.
So even such an emotional and mental thing like self-doubt, which is so deep-rooted, can be erased by the deities.
Yeah. So let's talk about Bhairava Baba. He's one of my favorite gods. Okay, he's one of my favorite deities because the first time I ever chanted a mantra was of him when I did not even know who he is. One of my first gurus gave me the mantra and I had not the faintest idea ki, who is Bhairava, what is Bhairava.
Are you talking about Kal Bhairav?
No, one form of Bhairav. Okay. He had given me the mantra and he said that jap karte raho. Okay, it was like an upadesham. At that time, I was more of the atheist kinds, had no interest, no idea, nothing of that sort. I kept doing. I remember for months I kept doing, nothing happened. Then one day I called him, nothing is happening. He's very elevated. He's obviously much more here than anybody. So he said that do one thing, do it in a more concentrated manner as a sankalpa. Sankalpa means you take some water or some rice grains, etc. And then you make a promise to the deity that so many days I'll do this mantra XYZ. And I took a very simple sankalpa, nothing else. Just say that so many days I'll do that with certain rules. Rules means same time I'll say it. Certain food habits changes I made at that time and all that. And I remember that time as a bachelor. So as it happens with bachelors, weekends means that you go out to drink with friends. That's all there is in life. Nothing else is there. So 7 days, 5 days a week you work and Saturday, Sunday is like the end of the world. Okay. So now I'm being very frank. How I remember. So at 10 o'clock at night I used to sit with that mantra and it used to take me 1.5 hours, 11:30. So even I remember one of my friends asked me ki we are going out, would you come with me? I said, no, you guys go, I'll come. I'll catch up with you. Okay. So I finished that. I didn't have any expectations with it. I just thought that let me try it. But by the 40th day, and I've spoken of this before also. So 40th day, I remember I was in Bangalore, I was having a cup of coffee and then then I see 9 cars, one after the other coming with the name Bhairava. And I was very stunned because I've never seen this before. And first 1, 2, I thought it's coincidence. When so many of them came, then this is like, you can't ignore it, that type of thing. But my mind was still skeptical. After that, I had a vision of a presence in my room. Bhairava. So, anyway, that's how my journey with Bhairava started, etc. Bhairava, the word actually means, there are 2 different interpretations of it. One is that it means terrifying. Okay. The other is that, but terrifying to whom? Why are you terrified of Bhairava? Because he is like that force which is absolutely naked. There are no conditionings. He has not put up any makeup. He has not done any. Digambara, the word that is used, who's sky-clad, which means that naked, is basically somebody who's unconditioned truth. If anything that I've realized in my sadhana of Bhairava Baba is that he loves truth. and he prepares you. And the truth is the only thing that we are scared of. Everybody in the world is scared of truth, because somehow or the other the mind tries to modify it according to your circumstances. Ki, no, this is what I like, and that, and I'm talking not just about your political affiliations or which football team you like. No, even in personal life, that's for everybody. We lie to ourselves before we lie to the world.
I had a bad breakup after I began Bhairava Upasana. Out of the blue.
Bhairav Baba, he takes you face to face with certain truths which your mind may or may not be able to, or which perhaps your mind is pushing to the background. Okay. His Vidya, the thing with his Vidya, so a lot of people say that Bhairava is somebody who protects. Yes, he protects, but he makes you fearless.
Yes.
How do you become fearless? By facing your fears. Nobody in the world can become fearless by running away from fears. He is the one who will say कि it's like the military training कि जो चीज तुम्हें डर लग रहा है, I'll put you right there.
Yeah. Felt this. Worst case scenarios happened, and then there wasn't.
But फिर after that तो after a point तो दुनिया जाए बाहर में, you don't care.
Yeah, you become very emotionally blunted.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm a little too emotionally blunted now. Like, where I've almost become, I don't even know what to call it, but I feel a lot of ferociousness in myself now. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm just flowing with it as a will of.
So that creates, these are changes, certain changes that Bhairava can create in an individual. There is a very beautiful writing I was reading a couple of months ago. So some of the great masters, and when we talk of Bhairava, it is important to mention that the maximum amount of upasana, paddhatis, writings and Bhairava came from Kashmiri Shiva masters. They were Bhairava upasakas. Okay, fantastic caliber Bhairava upasakas, a lot of them. And so Bhairava is, one of them defines it very beautifully. When you are scared of the world, when you are scared of Maya, okay, because the world has a Maya and you yourself have a Maya. Maya is your attachment. Okay, anything that you have attached yourself to is going to cause you some pain. That's the dictum of the world. And not just for you, that happened to the great masters, that happens to you, me, that will happen to people later on also. Whatever you have attached yourself to, that is generated a Maya.
The one you love.
Anything, even your phone. There's a specific beautiful story that is coming to mind, but I'll just hold it after I complete this section of the so eventually they used to say that when you are tired of Maya, tired of this cycle of, summer and winter and rains and all this, abhi acha hai, next time again there is a sadness, same, again there is happiness, again there is sadness, these seasons are going on, you're scared of Maya. And when you're scared of Maya, there is a shout from within. There's a visceral, guttural cry for help that comes out from the sadhak, from the upasaka, from the mumukshu. Mumukshu means one who is eager for spiritual progress, but he doesn't know anything. So there's from within there is this cry that comes out. That is when Bhairava responds. He says that I'll take you to a state where these mayas will go away. I'll show you the reality as it is.
Very fast.
That depends. Fast or slow will depend on the person's purva samskara.
Okay.
If you have done something with Bhairav Baba in past lives, very fast he will come. Before I forget, I'll tell you that story.
Sure.
It's very interesting. There was this great yogi. A lot of people know of him. You might have heard him. One of the Nath yogis, Gorakshanath. Baba Gorakshanath. He was like an immortal yogi. He's an amsa of Shiva, they say. Okay. He was like a part of... deities can send their amsas something. Amsa means a portion of the energy into the human form. Okay, and those people become great saints or great yogis and guide a lot of people like that, etc. So once Gorakshanath, he was going long back, many centuries ago, he was going to the city of Ujjain, okay, Avantika, and the king of that place, he was a great scholar and things like that. He had written fantastic texts, and he had a lot of, as it used to happen with kings, he had a lot of women and many wives and things like that. Okay, so I'm telling you the overall rough story a little bit so that the gist of the idea comes across. So one of his favorite queens dies. Okay, some incidents happen and queen dies. And he's terribly sad. terribly sad. Means he's like, "Ho gaya, mera life is done. There's nothing else to do. I mean, this is the only woman I loved, and she was the love of my life," and etc. etc. like this. So Gorakshanath sees this. Gorakshanath has a kamandulu. Kamandulu, you know, those yogis carry water. They will carry in that for Achman and various other purposes. So it's made of. So he takes the kamandulu and he breaks it in the ground. Okay, and then he starts crying, exactly like the king. Ki, mera ye toot gaya, it's gone. It's like, oh my God, this is the thing I wanted. And the king got very pissed off. And he said that, what are you doing? You think that, that thing you're trying to mimic me and mock me and all that. He said, no, I actually, that's the only thing possession I have, and I love it so deeply. He said that, and then the king gets even more pissed off. He said, I am crying because my wife is gone. Okay, it's a human being, and you are mocking me because of this kamandul. So Gorakshanath then tells him that, are you sure you really loved your wife that deeply? But I also loved you may have loved your wife, but I loved my kamandulu. For me, this is the most important thing in life. So by now the king is like really pissed. And kings, when they get very angry, they can kill you also. Can say, kill this person, something like that. They can be whimsical. So, but Goraksha tells him that, okay, if you really loved your wife, I'll put you to a test. So Goraksha had many occult abilities. Okay. Yeah. So what he does is that he creates 25 women looking exactly like his wife and tells him that, find out which is your wife. If you can tell me this is my wife of these 25 women, he had the ability to create these things. He was an immortal yogi. He was not an ordinary person. He was among the 9 Nath yogis who are immortal sort of. Okay. And the king is like stunned. 25 women exactly same looking, talking, same mannerism of speaking, sitting, talking, etc. And he is like clueless. What is happening? And then suddenly in his mind there is this brainwave like epiphany that happens. Okay, and he falls at the feet of Goraksha. And he says that, you teach me what is the reality of the world. Okay. And then Goraksha gives him sannyas diksha and he leaves his kingdom and he becomes a Nath yogi himself. And then he writes beautiful compositions on Vairagya. He becomes a great Nath yogi. Vairagya is detachment. You detach yourself from the material world, you will get bliss of the spiritual world. But almost no one can have both of these together. If you are in the material, you will pass through pleasure and pain, now this, now that, etc. But this story I find very interesting and I find very beautiful because it demonstrates actually for us that you create, by your existence, you create a maya around you through your attachment. And that is normal for all people. But also, your true spiritual growth will start when from deep within you feel that nahi bahut ho gaya hai. There's a cry that will come out. In his case, it happened because because of the power of the yogi. From our case, others also for that matter, when there is a deep down, there is not resentment, but more like you are tired of the world. Bahut ho gaya, sab dekh liya, everything. See, the same theme you will find in the first chapter of the Gita is Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Vishad means he's in a state of depression. He's confused that these are my relatives. Abhi tak to there was full jingoism of what karna hai, sab kuch hai. At the moment, he's confused. These are my relatives. Okay, he doesn't know. So it creates a dilemma in the mind. You are tired. You don't know what the hell it is. And then you look for somebody who's more intelligent and wiser and more capable. Ki, boss, tell me what it is. And then there is the whole Gita that flows. Okay. And after that, he tells him, no, you have to still fight because this is destined. This is dharma. You cannot escape from dharma. But you fight with a degree of detachment. This is the crux of all spiritual practices at the end of the day. Even if you read Yoga Vashishta, which is one of the most beautiful texts, it starts off this way, that Lord Rama is having conversation with Rishi Vashishta, and Vashishta is explaining. Vashishta is his Kula Guru. But Rama starts off this way, that I have seen all the women, I have seen all the wealth, I have seen everything. I have no attachment to I am tired of all this. What is there? What is beyond this? And then he goes into a deep conversation and discussion on the spiritual aspects, Kundalini, sab kuch, everything is there. At one point, when the soul becomes tired of Maya, then this, as I was mentioning, this cry comes out. And it may not be a loud thing. It's not something that's audible also. Something that, there is this desire from within. What? I've seen all this. Is it all that there is to the universe? Is there something beyond this? And that is when Bhairava responds. He says that, okay, I'll show you what is beyond this. But to go to class 10, you have to leave class 9. You cannot keep attending the class 9 and class 10 and still go to class 10. एक चीज छोड़ोगे तब जाके ऊपर जाओगे.
Yeah. Okay. What I find painful, and I'm looking for another word, but the only word I can think of is pain.
Yeah.
What I find painful is how individualistic a spiritual journey eventually actually is. Especially in this society where we're taught about love, we're taught about Shiv Shakti, even spirituality teaches us about love, but at the end of the day, it's all alone and it's your own self-discipline and it's your own lonesome journey that will actually take you to the happiness that you're looking for in love, in material pleasures, in career success. Any happiness that you're actually chasing, or any life goal you're actually chasing, is actually your soul's cry for chasing that individual spiritual journey, which is going to be alone even if you're married.
Most likely.
Most likely. You mean it can be with other people?
No. So what I mean is that there is a possibility, and it's very rare. There might be few individuals who may find a partner who is of the same wavelength in spirituality, and they both may grow together. But it is very difficult.
And it's circumstantial.
Yes, very rare. Because in this is the thing. In normal life, when you are dealing, when you are at a very high spiritual state, then you find somebody of that state, and there will be a certain degree of matching and what you call it, for lack of better words, a resonance. Okay, things will be more mature. Things will be fine. But the initial stages, people, when they normally get married at the initial stages of their own spiritual growth, at the initial stages are there. So you are not perfect at that time. You're still on the path, right? So there is still ego. There is still various other factors that will come in. And that is going to cause disturbance in the equation. So we have this very romantic idea that there is, this perfect partner. Very rarely it happens. Practically very, very, very rare. And some of the greatest yogis, if I may put it this way, and this may sound very dark also, some of the greatest yogis had very bad married life.
That's what's painful. Same pain I'm speaking. And it was important in their destiny to go through that pain of a bad married life.
Unless you are tired of the world, how the hell are you going to go beyond the world?
So your God or your divine will force you through pain until that cry is created. Everyone who's listening to this is going to face horrible pain.
Some pain somewhere in the life is going to come. I've never seen anybody being able to actually grow without pain. It's like they say, the gold, there's that English saying, fire tests gold as calamity tests strong men. Men or women, whatever. But until you pass through the fire, you are not made. Your mind and body is... And there is a good reason for this, by the way. The reason is that when you go to the higher ranges of spirituality, the energies that you will deal with, your mind and body must have the capability to handle it. Otherwise, it will damage you. And that requires, at the emotional level, at the psychological level, a certain degree of detachment from life.
Which is exactly why, again, very low level statement, I'm gradually beginning to value friendship more than I value romance. And I think in the long term, that's the only way you can make up for the individualism that a spiritual journey brings. Because the one theme that keeps coming up in Shastras is Sangat or Sangati.
Yes.
Who
Absolutely.
are your bros?
Oh, yes.
And by bros, I don't just mean guys, men, women around you. What is your tribe? Are they also on that similar journey?
Yes.
It makes a huge difference, and I feel a lack of it in Warsaw. When I used to live in Vadala, my Bhairavas ashram was nearby. There was a lot of mandirs nearby. Here, all my bros are actors and writers and media professionals who are doing great, but they don't crave a spiritual journey the way folks in Vadala did.
No, absolutely true. And it is very important at the initial stages to have some degree of community, a group of friends or something like that. I myself had that. I still have it. Group of friends, so with whom you can actually discuss some bit of this, how is sadhana going on, how are things like that, etc. And more or less, those people whom I sort of guide in spiritual practice. Eventually, I tie them into one sort of a group, basically. And together we do sadhanas also sometimes. Okay, on specific tithis we'll do this, specific tithis we'll do that. It helps in the initial stages a lot.
That is the only true joy that God has sent you here with. That there will be people who will also struggle with you. You're not alone.
Exactly. And there are people who will discuss, I've been doing for so long, I don't get an experience, etc. And then there will be somebody who will console you, it's okay. When the time comes, you'll get experience. But at least when you see 10 other people doing with you, it gives you certain motivation to continue. Yeah. And that is very important.
If you're lucky, you'll find your wife or your husband in that group.
Maybe.
If you're very, 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 very lucky.
Maybe.
I'll tell you this story that a billionaire actually told me. So he's born into a hyper rich family, like ultra HNI. And he has his own spiritual journey, which he is on. He's not found all the answers yet, but he's a researcher. That's his core. He goes to the Himalayas a lot himself. And this is a real kind of famous person. Secretly goes to the Himalayas a lot and asked him, what's the strangest thing you've seen? And he said, I've seen a lot of strange things. He gave me 2 stories which stayed with me. The first story was about the lake where the Pandavas eventually descended. I forgot the name of it. You know the last story of the Pandavas where they are on their way to
Swarga.
Yeah, and they're walking and there's a dog with them that eventually turns into Yamraj.
Yeah.
I think Yudhishthir passes away near a lake finally, and then from that lake area, he ascends to or descends to hell, because that's the story. He goes to hell first. He said that they reached the physical location of that lake, and I can't remember what that lake is, and it's killing me right now, but we'll probably put it in the video podcast. At night, once they meditated, from the center of the lake, they saw a cobra come out, just do like a strange, mysterious dance and go back into the lake. Didn't understand what it was. He said that the people in his group also saw it. And as he was telling me this story, I was able to visualize exactly what he saw. Maybe that's the joy of being a podcaster, that I'm able to do this through other people's voice and thoughts. But it stayed with me, as it's staying with the viewers who are listening to it right now. The second story, and of course I'm going to ask you the meaning of both these things, or at least what you understand from it. The second story was even stranger. It was a slightly darker visual. He said that on one of his treks, which was beyond the lake, they were in a very isolated part of the Himalayas. They were trekking to another spiritual location, which is ahead of this lake. At night, he had woken up to go to the toilet. And it's snow-clad mountains. They're already in the middle of a lot of snow. So he said that basically when he went outside his tent to relieve himself, in the distance, maybe like 2-3 kilometers away, he saw a group of men, maybe 3 or 4 men. I believe he said it's 3 or 4. Walk towards the same spiritual location that they were going to. But he felt like those 3 or 4 men who were on their way looked like they were 10 feet tall. That just made me think about all the mysteries that the Himalayas hold, because I know for a fact that there are many evolved humans and evolved beings that already live in the Himalayas. And many of them are also in physical form. But they are just so isolated from society and they're just living such secret lives that we don't even know.
Correct.
I asked him, what do you think those 10 feet tall men were? He said, I don't know, but I've had enough spiritual experiences to differentiate positive energy from negative energy. And this wasn't positive energy. He said that he did feel creeped out. Now I want to ask you about both these incidents.
So the first thing is that snakes are very, very important and powerful symbolisms, as well as their physical presence, specifically at a certain level of spirituality if you attain. Okay, so it is not a coincidence that Shiva has a snake around his neck, Vishnu lies on a snake, If you see the image of goddesses, Ma Tara, she has snakes as girdles. Bhairav Baba wears a janiyu of snake. Okay, janiyu is the sacred thread that Brahmins wear. So he wears a janiyu made of snake. Okay. They are, for lack of better words, at not all snakes. So just because you see a physical snake does not necessarily mean that it is okay. Before that, there's another. So
love it.
so this is what I'm describing to you is something that was told to me by somebody who's one of the most powerful Tantropasaks I know of, and it is true. 100%. Whether you believe it or not doesn't make a difference to me. I know it is true. I'm just describing to you. So he sees somebody who's been bitten by a snake. This gentleman sees somebody who's bitten by a snake. And what he does is that, very interestingly, with a certain kind of mantra and a certain herb, he first draws a circle around that individual. With that mantra and that herb, he touches that individual who's been bitten by the snake. Okay. It's a small girl, actually. Little girl. A snake. And he does a recitation of certain chants, okay, of Devi. After some time, that girl starts speaking in the voice of an adult man, okay, and he is not alone, but there are other people around in the room, by the way, when this is happening, okay. Everybody is stunned except him. Everybody is stunned, and then he asks that girl or whatever is inside that girl, and asks him that, why are you here? What have you done? Okay. And that voice tells him that I am one of their ancestors who's in a bad shape. And I bit this girl because there are certain rituals that were not being performed for the ancestors. Okay.
Whose ancestor was it?
The families to whom
the
the girl
same
belongs.
girls.
The girl's family.
It was one of the girl's ancestors.
Yes.
Who had taken the form of a snake.
Yes.
And bitten her.
Yes. Okay. And then this gentleman says, okay, we will do whatever has to be done so that your whatever troubles you are in is finally removed, and etc. And then he prescribed certain rituals, and eventually after some time the girl becomes all right. Okay. This may sound like a completely fantastic thing, but I know this is real because there are things I have seen and experienced, and the gentleman who was telling me, I know him very well to know that he's capable of all these things. Okay. So snakes are a very peculiar kind of every animal, every entity in the world has its own Shakti. Snakes have a peculiar Shakti which is much more powerful and superlative than just about everything else. Okay.
Everything else in terms
of whether it's human being, whether it's another animal, whether it's this, that, etc. And among these, what we call snakes, there are two terms that are used in the Sanskrit that is called the Nagas and the Sarpas. Okay, so Nagas are kind of a specific kind of beings which were there, and so you will see that even in the Mahabharata, when Parikshita is bitten by a snake, actually, Takshak. And there is 7 day when he hears the Bhagavatam and all that, and then there is a yajna that is done as a revenge to kill all snakes. So basically we see even in the scriptures that there is an engagement of snakes with humans at a level which is not there at this moment. We consider it to be just as a reptile moving around, but they were capable of certain powers and certain abilities at one point. Okay, snakes, what we call, or Nagas, etc. Nagas are those type of snakes specifically which had developed some, let's say for lack of better words, we have some specific occult powers which is much more superlative than just about anybody. In fact, we believe that Patanjali, who gave us the Yoga Sutras, he himself, or Lakshmana is Sheshnag who comes with Vishnu. Okay, so there is cultural memory says that there are snake-like beings or snakes who have exceptional powers. Now these beings get attracted to those who have a serious amount of spiritual energy. Lord Vishnu, he lies on a snake. Shiva, there's a snake around him. Okay, and these gods, devatas, they are so powerful. They have the Bhairava Baba, like he has snakes around in his body. Even the most poisonous snake will be calm in their presence. But if you ever have an encounter with a snake, Anyway, because I'm speaking and there are things in the head that there's a filter of what can be spoken of in public and what should not be. So that type of a...
And this isn't just public. This is...
I know.
This is going to stay there
No, I have
forever.
seen the effect from the last time, so that's why I'm more cautious. So anyway, fundamentally this is there. So if you see suddenly that there is a snake, I'm assuming that if this has happened, a snake comes out of the lake. So you can be certain that there is a very strong... There is a being or an entity with a tremendous amount of spiritual power, exceptional amount of power. I'm not even talking about saints, something that's beyond saints, something of the realm of gods, something like that. Okay. Even a smaller deity also. Their snakes will come. In fact, one of the stories I'd heard from one of my gurus, he was with his guru, it's many years ago, and they were doing a ritual of the goddess specifically. And in between his and my guru was then a youngster. Okay, he was younger. So guru's guru, he tells him that, Aram se sit down, there's a homa that is happening and you will see a snake coming. Okay. Don't get up, don't get scared. Don't get scared. It will do nothing. So after some time he sees that there's a snake, kind of cobra that is coming, and that area where the homa was happening, it's very isolated. I've been there. Okay. It's a cremation ground actually. Okay. So that snake comes from there and there's a fire that's burning. Normally, wild animals will never approach a fire. That's the beauty of fire. That's the power of fire, by the way. Wild animals, if you are in the forest, you know nothing. First thing you do is light a fire. Light a fire means nothing is going to come close to you. And beauty of thing is that it has a certain democratic power. You need not be a 6-foot gym-going hunk. You could be just a 12-year-old girl sitting with a fire. No wild animal is going to come close to you. They have an organic fear of fire, especially wild animals. Okay, so the snake suddenly comes in from there and starts doing what we call pradakshina, round of the fire. 2-3 times it does and then it goes away. Okay, and his guru was sitting. His guru says that kuch hone wala tha, it will be done. It's like as if he's speaking to the snake. Okay, he's telling. So there are rituals, by the way. And you know the intensity of the ritual, the Shakti that is being produced. Why did the snake come? Because when the Homa is done, Homa is what? Basically, you are worshipping a certain deity in the fire. Okay. So it was a form of Mahavidya Homa was going on of a particular Mahavidya in the fire. Okay. So deity's presence was there. Automatically, it will draw that element there. That snake which was there, it could be a being in the form of a snake. It will come there. And that is its way of showing its reverence. And there are rituals, by the way, in Tantra, in practical Tantra. One is the theoretical thing. In practical Tantra, there are rituals where you know the ritual success or failure, the amount of energy, Shakti that is being generated in the ritual by looking at the circumstantial evidence, how animals are behaving around that. Because animals do not lie. Humans can lie. You can pretend. An animal doesn't pretend. It organically behaves. Spontaneously it will behave. It senses that there is something and it will behave. Whether it's a dog, whether it's a snake, whether certain kinds of birds, and in some extreme cases, even wildlife, for example, leopards and all that.
Let's talk about Nagas.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was you or someone else on the show who said that the ancient Nagas that we speak about, the ones that Bhim met when he went to the bottom of that lake,
yeah,
and the ones that are mentioned in all the Puranas, etc., were a part of India. I think Praveen Mohan was on the show and he said that there are villages in South India where the village is built on the side of a hillock, and on the top of that little hill, there were these tiny ancient hutments built. And the local villagers believed that those huts were actually the home to Nagas, who were just smaller human beings.
Right.
Something like pygmies, but they looked like reptilian beings. Someone else told me that they were the ancestors of the modern day snakes we see around. Someone else has told me that they are actually still there, but they're just hidden. Nagas have gone to very hidden parts of the earth. They're still inhabiting. Someone else said they went back to the planet that they came from. I don't even know what the truth is. So I'd like to actually talk about both modern day snakes and their power and Nagas. And the reason I ask you about modern day snakes is because human beings often think that we're the most evolved and most intelligent creatures because we've discovered science. But what if we've not discovered what we even don't know that we've not discovered? And the gauge of intelligence is not necessarily scientific achievement. Maybe there are other formats of science which other animals know about, like whales or snakes or dolphins or dogs. Why is intelligence only related to technology and science? So let's break down Nagas as well as modern day snakes.
So Nagas, I cannot say with full conviction that what exactly happened to Nagas, but more or less, yes, they were very powerful reptilian beings, snakes you can call them. And as I mentioned, they do have a lot of occult power and occult abilities they had. And they are very powerful to the extent that they can manifest the various, they could, at least we have texts that mention that they could manifest the various siddhis, that siddhis are the special, powers, for lack of better words, that can come to an individual or a yogi who goes to a very high level. Those they could manifest. Plus, they would often, they get naturally drawn towards beings who have greater power than themselves. That is why even Buddha, by the way, the Buddhist texts mention that when he was meditating, there was a Naga that came and gave him shelter. Okay, Shiva has a Naga around him. Vishnu has sleeps on a snake. Devi has lot of, Ma Tara's iconography will have snakes, tied to her anklets are snakes, her yeas are various things. Okay. So Nagas are basically, let's look at it this way. You can think of them as creatures who had lot of evolved spiritual knowledge. Certain specific techniques of spirituality. Spirituality is not just a simple one-way track. It is like it's like a tree. The Bhagavad Gita describes spirituality as an inverted tree. Okay, so it's a tree with multiple branches. With so many, there's yoga is there, pranayama is there, tantra is there. In tantra, dakshinachar, vamachar is there, aghora is there. So many devatas are there. It is not at all a one-track thing. It depends. Why is it there? Because there are going to be different types of individuals. These are all parts. So certain specific types of spiritual progress, spiritual paths, the Nagas had absolute mastery of. From the Nagas, we have the Yoga Sutras, the Patanjali's. Patanjali himself was a Naga, it's believed to be. And some of the techniques of yoga come from them to us. It's like they brought this knowledge to the world. I feel, when I study these things, that what they gave is very exclusive and not fit for living, not just yoga. There are other aspects of them. Their knowledge is not fit for the average common human being, because human beings are not yet that evolved to take that kind of a knowledge or execute them. Maybe one or two individuals at some places may have done that, but others do not have the capacity for it. Their techniques are very intense. Sometimes it is possible for an individual to have a Naga as a benefactor also, by the way. Benefactor means somebody who protects you. It can happen through a ritual, or it can happen automatically also. This is exactly what the Naga is doing when he is coming and putting up his hood in front of Buddha, who is meditating for so many days, because there is a higher level spiritual power that is there, so it automatically comes as a protector. The same thing is happening in another format when there is it's not a Naga, but from the current day snakes that we have, they have some kind of a link. Okay. So when that ritual is going on, or any ritual is going on, the snake comes and it does a pradakshina and it moves around without harming anybody. That's very important. And here is the catch. If you get scared of it, that automatically indicates that you do not have that spiritual power to be steady and calm in the presence of that entity or being, or that's Naga or snake, etc. Then it is either not going to come to you, or it is going to react to you. Okay. So that is what Nagas are. Even today, Naga worship, by the way, happens. In Kerala, there are temples of Nagas. And in the same context, there are certain doshas in horoscopes, in Jatakas, when the grahas that are there in Jyotisha, certain doshas which are called as Naga dosha or Sarpa dosha. Okay, which if present in an individual is going to cause you a lot of friction in life, lot of badhas, sometimes difficulty in conceiving children, getting married, happiness, various things. Okay, so when those are there, it's a standard dictum to get specific rituals and pujas done in specific kshetras in order to calm them down. So Nagas are, at one point, their engagement with our civilization was far deeper. Now, whether Nagas went back to their realm, I personally feel, and I'm just speculating because I have no direct knowledge of this, I personally feel that no, there are still Nagas, but they are more hidden in their own domains, and they will not appear to you until you have achieved a certain degree of proficiency. There's a interesting anecdote, a story that comes in, and I read it in Sri Aurobindo's writings. Once he was meditating, I think he or the mother, who was his spiritual consort, I think she was meditating on Sri Aurobindo, and this meditating on the problem that why is there poverty, and then he goes to a certain realm, okay, and I'm just telling it as it is written, okay, goes to a certain realm and then sees that there is a huge amount of wealth kept in that realm, and they ask, but there are Nagas, 2 or 3 Nagas who are guarding that wealth, okay. And then they ask them that why is not this released to the world, because there are people who suffer from etc. And they say that there's a price for this. There are certain base human instincts, until you overcome them, this will not come to you, which means that poverty is always going to exist. Okay? And he writes that down. Any other person would have told me this, I would have perhaps thought that it's his imagination or something. But Sri Aurobindo was a very evolved yogi. Okay, he's not the kind of the mother that to make up something like that. But that also ties with some other colloquial stories that in local languages in local different parts of India we have, which mentions that Nagas sometimes guard wealths and very rare treasures. It could be a physical treasure. Wealth means there are different categories of wealth in the world. One is the money. Money is the easiest form of wealth, but there are precious gems. There are some kind of hidden stones or things like that. So they may guard those wealth so that it doesn't fall into the hands of undeserving or something like that. See, snakes have this thing. Snakes, there are 2 types. One is the evolved snakes, and then there are the lower category of snakes which are which are not particularly favored, by the way. For example, we have this, we get from the texts the story that Rishi Kashyapa had 2 wives, Tithi and Aditi, and from one the gods were born, devatas were born, and from one the lower beings were born. So one of them had children who were snakes. So one of the things the normal snake has is that snake has jealousy. Jealousy means no. Let's take it as a symbolism. I'm not saying that in a specific that a snake has jealousy. No, the snake symbolizes at the lower realm that clinging to something. Why is that person getting it? Mere ko kyun nahi mil raha hai? That sense is symbolized by snake. I'm not saying that actually snake has that feeling of love or jealousy, but snake's presence, ordinary snake's presence, can indicate at the negative sense jealousy, and this is exactly the doshas that reflect into the horoscope when there are Naga, Sarpa doshas, etc. and many other things. It causes problems of, as I was saying, whether somebody is not able to get married or not happy or things like that. And there's no amount of upasana of normal deities who are going to cure you of that. Because you have done some karmas in past with respect to snakes or something. And often it happens that if you kill snakes, it can manifest more strongly. If not in this lifetime, then in other lifetimes.
Okay. I have a small story I want to share, which I've not said on the show, and I actually feel very bad talking about this. But I'm still going to talk about it. My building, like the building I grew up in, my family's building, and my neighbor's building had a net in the middle, like a metallic net, like a jali. And when I was 16 one day, I just heard a lot of shouting happening in the compound. So I went out and saw from my balcony, tried to figure out what's happening. I could see something is stuck in that jali, and you know where the story is going. It was a grey colored snake. Okay. And my watchman was also freaking out. And he was a calm guy usually. You know, he's a gardener. He was very in sync with nature. But I saw him freaking out for the first time. I saw people collecting around these 2 buildings. And this one gentleman came in, caught the snake with a stick, and I was excited. So I went down to see what's happening. But I'm just a 16-year-old observing this.
Right.
First of all, I felt damn weird that in 16 years I'd never even seen a snake in my life. This is the first snake I saw. I'm curious to see what he's doing with the stick. He kind of wrapped it around the stick, trapped it, poured kerosene and burnt the snake in front of everyone.
It's terrible.
And I remember how that snake was wincing when it was being burnt. And I knew that some dark energy was surrounding everyone who was viewing that snake be burnt, including myself. But I was 16, wasn't even confident enough to have a conversation with a stranger. I didn't know what to do. Do you think me being a part of that snake being burnt had an effect?
That will be a minor effect in the sense because you empathize with which is normal with that creature, and but the individual who does it will definitely specifically harming snakes is more or less problematic. If not right then, definitely you'll have to have some strong repercussions. See, this is the interesting thing. We say generally that harming anything is bad, but it depends on what exactly it is, which means every entity, every being, every living, non-living or animate thing has its own Shakti. The Shakti that a snake has is very different from more or less every other animal. Harming snakes, specifically snakes that have poison, is an invitation for troubles. And if there are certain combinations in the horoscope, they trigger those combinations immediately. After that, life is going to go for a toss. All things that you go will have repercussions in their way. So, snakes are sort of, it's not that, see, snakes are very individualistic creatures, by the way. The other thing is that it's not to be something they're not in the sense that they're not friends. A snake is not a dog, by the way. A dog is very friendly, can be very friendly. I'm saying even cats perhaps. Okay, I don't have any with cats, but I'm just saying. And dog being Bhairava's Vahan is even more interesting. But snakes are not your friends. They're like super introverts. It's not like I have a pet snake and it doesn't care about you. Let it be happy in its own way. Okay, that is what is important. Harming snakes has repercussions. I believe that it's not a good thing to do, but I don't think that you have personally should be worried about that, because you were not directly involved in causing anything, and there were other people also, and you were just 16. So don't suffer from the guilt of it. Whatever negative feeling you had at that moment, and I can completely understand when you are describing it, take it as it is past. It's not your fault.
But what was the symbolism of Maya throwing up that incident to me? Was it for this conversation?
I don't know. So these, if you have to analyze these, you have to analyze what happened in your life after that, in the next 6 months, 1 year, how did it go, etc. So it's like perhaps a little too late to have this self-analysis at the moment, but more or less specifically when you evolve more spiritually, you see that everything that you see or you experience or you meet, there are certain indications that will come in your life around whether it was a positive thing or negative thing or etc. Things like that. But I believe that you should not hold a guilt feeling because of it, because obviously you were not responsible for it. You were just 16. But yeah, it's not a good idea to harm snakes, specifically if the snake is poisonous. Even more reason, don't be too with it. Like a lot of people, it's their mentality, I suppose. They feel that it's very nice to have a snake and display and take photos and all that. Snake doesn't enjoy it. You may be enjoying it, snake is not enjoying it. Okay, so let it be as it is in its natural setting. Don't disturb it. Don't go ahead and unnecessarily poke it. And if you find a snake coming into your territory and all that, so call the animal control or whatever and put it into wherever it has to be put, instead of killing it and all that, because killing snakes will trigger certain repercussions, if not now, then at the right time. And that's
guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's a very heavy format of karma.
Why do you think of all animals the snake is considered a representative of the Kundalini Shakti?
You tell me.
That is because it's like if you look at the original diagrams of Kundalini, so it's like they're described as a coiled snake, 3.5 coils at the Muladhara, and then it starts rising up. And when it fully manifests, it's like a snake with its hood open. Okay, so snakes are this very interesting creatures, of which the Nagas and all who are there of the same. It's like humans, for example. There are humans who are very spiritual, very advanced, and then there are humans who are extremely diabolical and very malefic types. Both are possible in the same species, right? So snakes are like that. There could be very highly evolved snakes, and then there could be very lower snakes. And we see this example in, as I was saying, Rishi Kashyap's wife. So one of his wives, she gave birth to a lot of snakes, and the snakes were extremely jealous types. Okay, but one of them is also the Shesh Naga. Okay. And he is very spiritual in nature. That is why he has the ability to hold the world, and he has a connection with Vishnu. Okay. And the other snakes become an enemy of Garuda. Garuda is also connected to Vishnu. And Garuda was born from the other wife of Kashyapa. So average snake is a symbol of an extreme competitiveness, jealousy, bitterness, the dark feelings that a human also has. It's a symbol of that. But a snake that has, and that is very rare, and this is where the Nagas come in. If ever anybody gets to encounter one, not normally, you will not. those are very different. They may even bless an individual. There is a concept of something, and there's today, based on this concept, a lot of fraud also happens. Something known as a Nag money. It's believed.
Nag what?
Nag money.
Money.
Is a jewel. Money. Money means jewel. So it's believed that certain Nagas, when they live up to a long time, they develop a certain kind of jewel in their head. Okay. Now, don't go into analyzing this scientifically. Okay, it's not, leave science aside. This is the realm of occult and things that are not normally by the five senses. Okay, so they have this money, and they can shed that money, that specific gem. If an individual gets hold of that gem, it causes an absolutely like going in a lift. Your life is going to change, every aspect. Whether it's material, whether it's spiritual, whether it's everything. Whatever you touch is going to go like rocket speed.
This can be found in jungles?
No, it's very difficult to find. That's why I say a lot of fraud happens. I know people who have been duped by people claiming that they have found a Nag money and they'll ask for crores and all that. And a lot of important people who are aware of this concept keep searching for that. But if at all, if anybody finds it ever, I believe that it's possible to find. Obviously, otherwise, whatever lore or story comes in, there's always an element of truth in that. Okay, and given that it is connected to Naga, so if somebody finds a gem like that, it can cause, but it's not at all easy to find. And most of the people you will find that who are selling these things most of them are just frauds.
The snakes we see in the modern day, which you see in cities also occasionally.
Yeah.
They are also spiritual creatures?
No, not all. Not all. See,
they're animalistic.
They can be normal animalistic. They can be completely normal animalistic. And tying it back to that story which I told you of that individual who, that little girl whose voice changed and all that. He was explaining to me. So there are different types of snakes. There are entities that can take the form of snakes. One of the forms they love taking. Okay. And in that, they can bite somebody or they can do something, and that is always a reason behind it why it is there. So there's a specific kriya or mantra which he was doing. He suspected that it is one of those kind of entities, using which you can figure out that is it a normal animal as a snake, as a reptile as a snake, or it is some of the entities that are behaving like a snake, and then do whatever needs to be done. Okay. So again, these things are very difficult for people to believe until they have a direct experience of it, which is perfectly all right if anybody doesn't want to believe. There's no force in this, but strange things happen.
Okay. There's a whole mysterious world that's going on as we speak in the background, which is why I want to take you back to that other Himalayan story.
Okay.
For the sake of TRS clips, I'm going to repeat the story very quickly.
Yeah.
A very spiritually oriented friend of mine goes deep hiking in the Himalayas, beyond where most people choose to go hiking. He's going towards a particular kind of spiritual location which is very, very, very remote, very inaccessible, takes days to trek up there. On one of the nights where they are sheltered in tents, he goes out to relieve himself, and 2-3 kilometers away at least, he sees 3 to 4 extremely tall men who he believed were 10 feet tall walk in the same direction of the spiritual place that they were going to hike towards the following day. And he said that he got a mysterious and maybe even negative energy from even looking at them. He got scared enough to go back in his tent and just be with his own family. I'm not just asking you about what he saw. I'm asking you about the world in the Himalayas that we don't even know. We spoke about how even animals can be spiritual or non-spiritual or malevolent. I'm sure human beings can also become malevolent.
Yes.
Or non-spiritual. Or people who have been spiritual can move to the dark side.
Yes.
What did he see? What's happening in the Himalayas?
So what he saw, I cannot exactly tell you, because in my mind, there are certain factors. First of all, if I don't know that individual, assuming that the story is correct, if I don't know that individual, I don't know whether they really have the capacity to judge if something is positive or negative. Why? That's because if you are put into a strange environment, if you see something strange, you can feel negative, even if it is not negative. It is possible. Okay, unless you have. So I can't make that judgment for him. But suppose if there is first of all, in the Himalayas, once you start going beyond reaches of, even in the lower Himalayas, if you go to Badrinath, I recently been to Badrinath for some sadhana and all that. And beyond, as you go to remote areas, let's just say that the spirituality of the previous yugas are still present there. Today, though, things have become corrupted at a mass level, and we are where we are. There is only so much we can do. But when we read stories of the Mahabharata or the even earlier eras, where great yogis used to go terrific sadhana for thousands of years, strange powers they would get, and all that, everything, the gods would manifest easily, things like that. So consider that level of spirituality is still present in the Himalayas. And it is not accessible for people. It is not meant for ordinary people to go there. And if the spiritual road is, say 1,000, I'm just saying for a roughly, actually spirituality never ends. Never ever ends. You can stop somewhere. If you reach, say, 1,000 goal, if you reach 200, 300, you'll become a big saint and you can sit and make an ashram and do a lot of things. Okay. But there are people who may want to go even deeper. 500, 600 level tak pahunch jaye. There you cannot interact with the society anymore. You have to leave the society and you have to go to those realms. Okay. That's because there is a huge gap in the energy. Huge gap in the energy. So
what will happen if you interact with people?
No, it's not like that. It's nothing will happen. It's like say you are 30 now. Okay, so if somebody tells you that, gives you a class 5 toy and says, can you play with it? Same thing will happen. It's you will not like this. That's about it.
They've understood Maya.
Maya, this is beyond Maya. See, even taking in a tangent, in the Kashmiri Shiva system, they have 36 tattvas. Okay, there is a particular tattva means there are different stages of realities. Let's just look at it that way, for lack of better words. So there is a particular tattva. Beyond that, Maya also ends. But after that also there are depth of spirituality. It doesn't end there. Depth and depth and depth. Why do you think Adi Shakti or Para Bhairav cannot be imagined? It is beyond your imagination. So that means between that beyond imagination level and between the last realm of Maya, there are still layers.
What are the difficulties there for the journeyman?
There.
At that level, what's the challenge?
That level things function very differently. It is not like us. The Maya and all that is left behind long back. Okay, you have transcended there. You follow. Actually, there is something known as the yogis, Nath yogis, and all used to believe. The word called Adesh. Adesh is command. A lot of people use it today, just like that. Ki Adesh mil raha, Adesh mil. That's all mostly show and all that. But actually, there are certain chakras which are, people speak of the 6 chakras, right? No, there are more chakras than that. Let me just put it this way. And there are chakras which are not even opened in you. Yes, 6 too is functional. Because you are functioning in this world, you have this 5, 6 chakras that are going on. That is why, good or bad, it is functional. So you are feeling, today you are feeling a lot of pain because there is some amount of, some emotional trauma that has gone through, etc. That is because one of your chakras is damaged. So it is feeling the pain there. Your Muladhara starts functioning, you acquire a lot of wealth, property, etc. automatically comes in. Swadhisthana starts functioning, you suddenly have a plethora of relationships that are going on. Your Manipura starts functioning, you suddenly have a commanding, whatever capability. Any leader must have a strong Manipura chakra, otherwise you cannot function as a leader. People will not listen to you. So like this, all these 6 are the traditional, normal happening in everybody, good or bad. Beyond this also there are chakras which are, it's like buds which are closed. Not just negative positive ka baat hi nahi hai. It is not functional in 99% of people. Through the power of Kundalini and Shakti, through the Upasana Devatas, if somebody reaches that realm, it's very rare, you can pass Shakti through those chakras and they will start activating. And once they activate, there is one specific chakra, then you will start getting an Adesh, which is a command. Command from whom? That is when you are at the realm where you attain a divine Guru. Guru hai. They may not be here. They are not interested in the ordinary person. Okay. Those are like, they will then, through that, they will give you an instruction ki ye karna hai, aise karna, waise karna. So in the higher realms, in the highest of realms, the conception of time changes completely. So that's why you see in the Puranas, some rishis doing, Vishwamitra is doing tapasya of Gayatri Mantra for 1000 years. How is it possible? In that realm, conception of time will completely change. Your body's aging and things like that is going to be dramatically changed. Okay. I am talking of a realm which is beyond even the normal conception of nirvana. Let me put it this way. And this is going to shock many average understanding of people. We think that nirvana is the end. It is the end. Yeah, it is very high, but it is also the door to some other realms of spirituality, which is very, very, very rare. And those realms are where the playground of those realms is the Himalayas. Uske niche nahi hota ye sab. Or maybe the depth of the ocean.
The depth of the ocean.
Yeah, there are. So that is it's very difficult to describe those things in normal terminology. It's very difficult. It's like a person who has not read. Suppose you are learning. Kid is learning in class 3-4 addition subtraction. Suddenly you tell him there is something called a negative number. He'll freak out. Wow, negative number kahan se aa gaya? Positive number khatam nahi ho raha hai, to negative kahan se aa gaya? It's something like that. It's so obtuse. And it's not even, and again I repeat, it's not meant for ordinary, it's not needed for ordinary people. And I'm pretty damn sure that a lot of people who will hear this will completely misunderstand this. And they will start thinking from tomorrow, mere ko bhi ye sab ho raha hai.
मेरे को depth of the ocean.
I'm just guessing from the emails that I get. Okay, बहुत सारा चीज हो रहा है. So either you will be completely in denial कि ये बकवास है, which is okay, fine, I'm happy with that. Okay, and problematic is that no, मेरे साथ भी हो रहा है ये सब चीज. ठीक है, मैं घर पे ये सुन रहा हूँ. Anyway, I have had so many emails from Kalki avatars. Ki the fate of the world is dependent on me, and so like that. Just they're all real what I'm saying, but yeah, that depth of spirituality is something completely different. And Shiva and Bhairava and all this, they are beyond that depth.
Wow.
They are beyond that depth. Can you imagine what degree of subtlety that is? Our normal conception is nirvana tak theek hai, uske upar bhi jata hai. There is a particular stage till which you can reach in the last 5 of the tattvas, and that is, see, in Shankhya philosophy, that's one of the 6 philosophies, there are 24 tattvas, okay, and that is taken in Vedanta and other branches of philosophy, in the Hindu philosophy, Dharma philosophy. So 24 is the final. Kashmiri Shiva upasakas, and I revere them very highly because they did tremendous work on the philosophy of Bhairava. Because I like Bhairava Baba, so I like reading them for my own purposes. I'm not a scholar, let me be very clear. Okay, neither an academic nor scholar, nothing. So they added that 24 is not enough. We need 36 tattvas. 24 tattvas tak, your Maya and all that is fine. Your Nirvana aa gaya. Uske baad, how do you determine? What happens there? See, you have a glass of water, and there is water in the ocean. Scientifically, both of them are H2O. Okay, a little bit composition mein thoda idhar udhar hoga, but more or less H2O hai. So what? So are these two same? Same, but not same. An ocean can hold an ecosystem. It can cause tsunami, tornado, whatever it is. Okay, ocean, ships fly in it. There are fishes, this, that. So many depths, hardly people know. What is the difference? The difference is Shakti. And at the higher realms, it is the difference in Shakti that makes all the difference eventually. And there is a particular, after this 24 tattvas, there's a realm, Shuddha Vidya it is called, the pure realm, where there are mantras, all these 7 crore mantras that Shiva gave out to the world, and told them that you help people. Those who serve the mantra, when you are chanting a mantra, you are doing seva to the mantra.
You're charging it also.
Look at it this way, you're doing seva to the mantra, like you do seva to a guru. And it is going to guide you. There is a Shakti inherent in the mantra. The Shakti of the mantra, when we sit and do Nyasa, Shakti of the mantra is in the leg. Leg means movement. It is going to cause some movement in your life, whether you like it or not. And this is done by the authority of Shiva. He has charged these mantras of all deities and given it to the world in that realm. Whoever follows the rules and does japa of the mantra, he is doing seva to the mantra. And the mantra in turn will give him something. It will guide his path. That becomes like a guru. Why does a guru is very important in the physical realm. Most people need a physical guru because most people are most people, which is fine completely. But at a very high level, you can have a non-physical entity as a guru. Only the thing is that, and this question comes to me often, that why can't we have a devata as a guru? Few people can have, but most people cannot have. Why? Because the deity is not going to respond to your whims and fancies. See, my physical gurus are very fantastic. I need something, I can go and just sit and finally they are human beings. So with a human guru, you have the advantage that there is a human component involved. Okay. But for an inanimate, non-physical guru, let's put it this way, not inanimate, sorry, inanimate is the wrong word, non-physical guru, like a deity, etc. Their dealing is very different. They are not going to jump around by your whims and fancies. You cannot fool them so easily. You cannot do buttering up to them. Okay, wo sab nahi chalta hai. So that realm, what happens is that after that, those last, as I was saying, the last 5 tattvas, when somebody reaches that realm, the mantras are there. Then beyond the mantras, there is Shiva, there is a lot of other things. There's Sadashiva. Okay. In fact, if you look at the iconography of Ma Kali, Dakshina Kali, or if you look at the iconography of Tripur Sundari, one of the most powerful deities, goddesses. So we'll speak about it sometime. But if you look at her iconography, you will see that she's there are 4 beings holding up a throne. Those are Ishwaras. So in the normal conception, we consider Ishvara to be the ultimate. Here, Ishwaras are Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, and Ishvara, another entity. Okay, these 4 have the Ishwar Tattva. That means they are like gods, Ishvara, all powerful. With our conception of God is what? When we simplified, okay, there is this great being in the world who can create, destroy, very powerful, etc. That is Ishvara. Beyond Ishvara, they are holding the throne. Okay, on the throne there is a white colored Shiva lying down. That is Sadashiva. Okay, on Sadashiva is Tripur Sundari sitting. So Sadashiva is a stage even beyond Ishvara, they are saying.
As in God came out of them.
Sadashiva is even beyond Ishvara. And there are some of the masters that also mention that the tattva of Sadashiva, if you are very, 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 very good in spirituality, you are exceptional, you might reach up to the tattva of Sadashiva. Tattva means it's like just like I mentioned, water. So I can say that the water in the ocean and the water in the glass have the same tattva, but the Shakti is different.
You're talking about spirituality beyond nirvana.
This is a different realm altogether. Okay, and as I keep repeating again, and even when I'm privately discussing with somebody, so this is not meant for ordinary people. And if you think too much, and if you're the problem with speaking all this is that if your own energy is not up to a certain level of spirituality, you are 100% going to misunderstand all these things. At the risk of being misunderstood, I'm still saying because it's coming in a flow. That's why I'm going on. So this, till the realm of Sadashiva, you might attain in your physical form. After that realm, your body cannot hold that energy. You have to leave the body. But even if you leave the body, you are not dead. You become more powerful. Your constraints of the body goes. You become even more powerful. And these beings, they are almost non-different from Shiva. Almost non-different. If you and I were to look at these beings, we'll think this is Shiva only. They have done so much upasana. They have become almost gods. They guide various other beings and other people who are doing sadhana, etc. You are doing upasana, I am doing Bhairava upasana. Okay, and suddenly there's intuition, tying it back to what I was telling you. Intuition comes that in an hour there's a call going to come from these guys, and they will say that on specific date you have to come, and that date is important to Bhairava Baba. So you just say yes. I am thinking that okay, this thing, it's perhaps Bhairava is telling me. But how do I know it's not one of those beings? It's them also who do all this, because they're given the charge of guiding. Bhairava is very high up. He may not come. He is aware. Tripur Sundari is aware that who is doing, or Shiva is aware that who is doing upasana. Shiva is not going to come so easily. Around him there are parivara. These are called the parivaras. Family. These are deities. So when we traditionally worship in our dharma, there is no monotheism, by the way. It's impossible. Monotheism means we worship only one. No. even if you're worshipping one, if you're worshipping Shiva, there will be Parivar Devatas. If you're worshipping Vishnu, there will be Parivar Devatas. It's like if you're inviting, say, the Prime Minister, he's not going to come alone. Full with him security and I don't know what all will come with him. Same thing. These are so important. They are never alone. And they are aware of everything, but they will not interfere. It is these, and this Parivar Devatas have their krama. They are all these beings in these realms. They will be the first ones to interact. You are doing Shiva upasana and all that, etc., etc. After a stage, initial stages, nobody bothers. Katte raho. ठीक है, बहुत लंबा रास्ता है. But suppose you are able to build up a certain degree of energy, they will be the first to come and see what does this guy want actually. चाहता क्या है?
And do people want things other than just spiritual growth?
Lot of people are deep. The heart is the most peculiar thing in the human being. It has all sorts of desires. So never listen to what a person says. Never listens to, I'm just saying, that's the truth, by the way. So to judge a person, observe what he is doing. That will give you that what is the secret motivation in the heart. Sometimes people are motivated by desires which they are consciously not aware of. Ask them, why do you want to do sadhana? No, I want to reach spirituality, this, that. Some tote ki tarah rata hua, some statements they will put. Okay. And I can sense that his energy is nowhere close to that. That mumukshata, that thing is not there in him. Give him some sadhana, after some days, ye nahi ho raha, wo nahi ho raha, because that energy is not there. So the heart is maybe somewhere else. Very often, in fact, speaking of this, I think in the Gita, I don't remember the chapter exactly. So Lord Krishna mentions this to Arjuna. That Arjuna asks, what happens if a yogi doesn't succeed? He says that he can be born in tremendous splendor. And there are some who are even higher. They may be born in a family of yogis, where he can continue that same practice from childhood. But why does somebody get born in splendor?
To distract them from...
Because deep down the desire was that I want something fantastic. मैं इतना गरीब हूँ, मैं इतना साधना कर रहा हूँ, कुछ तो होना चाहिए. भगवान बोलते हैं, okay, all right, next level make you are a billionaire, you are this, that, जो भी है, etc. And then you stop your practice and next life, after that again back to where you were.
Because you realize there's nothing in the material.
No. You may not realize also, no, material has its own charm. Once you enter there are so many people I see, I will not name them, famous people, and I see and I completely feel that ye banda jo hai, isne in past life he has done practices, and because of those practices he's getting all this benefits, and material has its own pull. Maya is very strong, and you don't do any other practice now. Kuch nahi karte ho. Normal, you are running after, you're making money or whatever you're doing, etc., etc. Fantastic, very good. Enjoy this life. Next life you'll be back to where you were before. Wapas aa gaya. Or you may go even bad, because if you misuse, if you don't have that basic conscience of right and wrong, and you indulge in really negative things, then you'll fall even worse.
Do you see elements of their sage-like nature in what work they're doing?
Some small things. When I try to observe a person, there are a few things. The words are the last thing I see. I don't care about what a person is saying, because that is the last thing. Because words are where you can lie. Okay, everybody can say many good things, but observe small things. You will see if you practice. Eventually, first is their structure. From the structure, you can get some understanding.
From the physical body.
Physical body.
Really?
Absolutely. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was perhaps the greatest Kali upasaka of the last 200 years. We Bengalis call him Thakur. Whenever a person would come to him for spirituality, he would judge, for taking initiation or something like that for guidance, he would judge them very minutely. So one of the judgments he would do is that he would look at the physical structure of the person, weigh his hands. The weight of the hand from here to here will tell you what type, if at all you can be spiritual, and what is the right path for you. See, I told you spirituality is a huge tree. If you go in the wrong path also, you will not work. Right path. If you're meant to be highly spiritual, your body will have lakshanas in it. Lakshanas means signs in it. Not for ordinary people to understand, but jisko samajhna hai, wo samajh jayega. Because your body should be able to sustain that energy. Otherwise, you are not born in that body. If you are meant to enjoy material things, you will be enjoying in a body that is fit for material things. Nature is very beautiful. This orchestra, once you start understanding, it's amazing. You will be, at a natural sense of gratitude will come towards nature, who is Mahamaya, who is Adi Shakti, who is everything. For me, who is Ma Kamakhya. I've spoken so much without taking her name. Ma Kamakhya. She's all. It's a beautiful play. It's a beautiful play. And you feel natural sense of gratitude. And this is bhakti, ahetuka bhakti. Causeless. You don't want anything. It's just, what have you done?
Okay.
Amazing.
Do you want to talk about the depths of the ocean?
Now, depths of the ocean. So there is a certain realm where Mahasiddhas come. Mahasiddhas means they are considered that those are people who have gone beyond the conception of nirvana, normal idea of nirvana, as I was saying, the higher realms. So they can very, very high stages of sadhana.
You mean they've probably lived out human lifetimes, done their spiritual practices, gone beyond nirvana, gone beyond even possibly that spiritual goal in the astral world, whatever happens beyond moksha and nirvana, and then come back to this realm?
There are two ways of looking at it, by the way. So traditionally the term moksha means, the word moksha has undergone changes in its meaning over last 2000, 3000 years. Okay. So more or less what we consider moksha today is that it is an extinction of your life. So you are out of the system. It's like a video game. Chal raha hai. Moksha means ab bahut ho gaya. Main abhi computer band karke ja raha hu. Okay. But you cannot run away so easily because there's maya and there is karma and there's various things, and you are suffering also. You are playing the game and you are losing, but you can't run away from the game. That's what life is, sort of, for most people. Okay, moksha is that somehow or the other you find a way to end the game, switch it off, and get out of the seat and go out and enjoy nature and whatever else. Ye moksha hai. Basically, you're out of the system. So how do you do that? In nirvana, what we consider as nirvana, it is possible to extinguish oneself completely. Finish ho gaya, you're out of the system. That is what happens for 90% of the people who attain nirvana. Not even 90, let's put it 98. 2% are possible who may attain to the same experience of nirvana, but may not extinguish themselves from the system. They are not out of the system. So nirvana nirvana by itself means that it's like a finish, end. Khatam. In fact, very interestingly, the Gita doesn't use the word nirvana, it uses Brahma nirvana. A lot of scholarly things are there, we'll sidetrack it, but we're just saying, it's an interesting observation. I think 6 times or 7 times it comes, it uses the word Brahma nirvana. The word nirvana became very popular with Buddhism. Extremely popular. So there is because in Buddhism, generally accepted idea, Buddhism is also very complicated. I'm not talking about the general idea. The general idea is that there is a nirvana, and because everything is shunya, at the end there is no atma, anatma and all that, etc. is there, nirvana. The finish of this story gets over. But you can enter into the state of nirvana and yet not finish yourself. By the way, nirvana cannot be attained so long as you have a normal ego. We function from the ego. Nirvana cannot come until you finish the ego. That's to certain. Ego has to be completed. But suppose your ego is finished, you enter into the state of nirvana, and some other ego is entered into you of something very higher. So what happens? Ego is the root of an individual, is the fulcrum of an average individual. You are an individual because you have an ego. And ego doesn't mean the arrogance or the pride, which we normally call in the English term. No, ego means something, it's like the asmita, your sense of I-ness. Who are you? You are going on the road, somebody says Ranveer, I am going on the road, somebody says Rajarshi, automatically my head will turn. This is your ego, because you are attached to your name, you are attached to your family, you are attached to your identity, you are attached to your father, mother, girlfriend, wife, husband, jo bhi hai, pura. Ye pura maya ka fulcrum is ego. And it is good. It is not always bad. Without the ego, you will be dysfunctional. You will either end up, if you don't have spiritual depth, and suddenly your ego goes away, you will end up straight into a mental hospital. You will not be able to handle the world at all. Individualization has been created by nature, so you become functional in a way. But the spiritual goal is you transcend the ego. Okay, because this ego also individualizes you. You cannot so easily connect to the higher realms. So when somebody is entered into the state of nirvana, ego will not be there. And that is why once the ego is not there, as I said, if you don't have spiritual depth, you end up in a sort of mental wreck and all that. Suppose you enter into an extinction. Nirvana is extinction. Khatam ho gaya sab kuch. Okay, ego is also done. Sab khatam ho gaya. तो उसके बाद 98% of the people don't have any business with the world. You are out. You don't have to take birth also. Finish. But the 2%, in that case, the ego may, your human ego is gone. There may be an identity of a deity or something higher that can enter into you. In that case, you are not going to go away. And that is going to happen only if nature has a plan for you. तुमसे कुछ करवाना चाहता है nature. Because nature is higher than everybody. Okay? Nature is higher than everybody. And then you go into these realms. By that time, your normal Maya and all that is finished.
So you're in an astral body when you're at the depths
Not
of
even
the
astral. It is very complicated to explain. It's beyond. See, there are generally speaking, there are three realms in which we function. Okay, one is the physical body realm. Okay, the other is the vital realm. Vital is where you have the emotions and all this. The whole emotional package is vital. Your power is vital. Fear is vital. Lack of fear, courage is vital. Beauty is vital. Everything is vital. Okay, all these things. It's very powerful because from the vital realm, so many things have come. Art, culture, etc. Our life is mostly vital. Uske baad there is the purely mental realm. Mental means where the mind, as it is, without emotions. Okay. The highest realm of the mind, this, when we say the Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, the three things, these are the three realms actually, translated. So, average, every individual is functioning through these realms. Swa, the last of the mental realm, farthest reach of the mental realm is where there is this, look at it this way, that thing called nirvana. You transcend that and go to what is beyond that stage, then there are totally different things. And it is very difficult to describe. It's not even physical. It's not, your astral, what we call astral by the way, is the subtle form of the vital realm. Ye itna niche hai.
Understood.
And these things are not even written in texts easily.
Because again, it's beyond words.
Because it's very difficult to describe. Yeah, actually it's beyond words.
Okay. I want to ask you the shark and whale version of the snake conversation that we had. Marine life.
Okay.
Especially whales or dolphins, which we know are slightly more evolved creatures.
I don't know. I'll be very honest. I have not studied them that much that I can form an opinion on them. But I do believe that all animals have certain innate spirituality. See, think about it this way. A question just popped in my head. Animals have a spirituality. Humans have a spirituality. What is the difference? We say that children are divine. Generally, all cultures will tell you that children are divine. If children are so divine, why do people grow up? If spirituality is the aim of life, that is because nature wants you. There is one additional component that a human being has, which is that Bhur Bhuva Swa, the third, the ability to logically judge things, complicated things. Okay, not even judgment. The mind, pure mind, without emotion. This vital realm that you have, animals also have this in their own fashion. Animals are creatures of the vital. In the vital realm, you don't lie. You do spontaneously. Okay? You feel fear, you run away. You see food, you run after the food or something like that. Basically, it's there's no lying there. Pretense is not possible. Pretense comes from the head.
From the mind.
From the mind.
And they run based on instinct.
Instinct. Exactly. You put it this way. Nice. This is exactly what I was trying to do. But nature wants your mind to also be spiritualized. And that is where the catch is. That becomes very difficult. If you can spiritualize your mind, in my opinion, it creates a fascinating thing. That is why human beings are the most evolved creatures, because that is why we grow up also, by the way. Otherwise, if spirituality is the end, children do not have a developed mind. The mind is also where the Maya comes in. Mind tricks you, or the mind develops into technology or whatever you call it. All these things can be developed. And the mind has the ability to develop a spiritual component also. And people who develop that, they're very high caliber yogis. So there is a lot of things here, but more or less that is what. So all animals have certain degree of spiritual instinct. I believe. Some animals have it more than some others. Snakes are one of them.
Which are the other ones?
There are
There are some.
dogs are some.
I saw the video you did about Kal Bhairav Upasana. You said that one of the tests for your Upasana being successful, your prayers to Kal Bhairav being successful, is that dogs will be drawn to you.
Yeah. So dogs are very interesting creatures. Dogs have an instinct for loyalty. Other animals also have it, but dogs have it more than others. Okay. And see, Bhairava Vahana is considered as a dog. Okay. Dogs are basically, if I remember, I had read somewhere long back, I think wolves or whatever, they domesticated and became dogs. Okay. From the time when dogs started living with humans, perhaps there is no other creature that has lived with humans longer than dogs. Okay. Consider that is when Bhairava decides that I'm going to help this species. Okay. And the other thing is that a dog is a guardian, sort of. If you have a dog at home, if there is anybody who's disturbing anything like that, he will figure out, etc. One of Bhairava's typical instincts for an individual is that apart from the core tattva, which is that he makes you fearless, he also guards you very fantastically. He guards you from, even if Bhairava's blessing is with an individual, if you are supposed to go down into some negative pitfall, etc., he is the one who can pull you out of it. And that's what I tell people, that Bhairava is the only deity who can pull you out of a nightclub and make you sit into a meditation room. बाकी लोग तो जाएगा ही नहीं उसके अंदर. It's already too corrupted place. They will not go. He will go there if he likes. He will pick you up from there, even if you cry and do whatever. वो बैठा देगा तुम्हें meditation में. He is the one who can do that. Okay, and I've seen that happening with people. So, like dogs can guard, Bhairava guards his upasakas very strongly. Very strongly. Only thing is that you cannot lie to him. He is a god of truth. He hates lies.
When you're saying you can't lie to him, I understand one, you're talking about the tantric rituals where if you've made promises, you got to follow them.
No, not that.
Oh.
I'm saying something more fundamental, which means that when you are worshipping Bhairava, make it a point to sit calmly and tell him everything. And tell him everything means even your flaws. मैंने नहीं ये कर पाया. I tried this. If you're honest, he will help you. If you're dishonest, he detects dishonesty in 1 second. You don't have to tell the world, but you have to tell him clearly and without pretense. And that is very important. Without pretense. He doesn't like pretense. So if you can, to the world, you can pretend to be, and that is the one thing which most people don't do. To the world, they pretend that I've seen that they are great devotees of bhaktas. Bhakta is devotee, great devotees of this God. इतना मैं भजन कर रहा हूँ, ये कर रहा हूँ, वो कर रहा हूँ, फोटो डाल के सब कुछ चल रहा है. And when they come in front of the deity, they pretend that they are great sadhaks. ठीक है, sadhak means one who is doing lot of practices and yoga कर रहा है, ये कर रहा है. Equation should be completely different. To the world, you become a sadhak. To the world, you do your sadhana. When you are sitting in front of your devata, you are just a devotee. And like a devotee, you speak to him. Not just ask, you tell him that this is what is going on. I'm not able to deal with it. I don't know what to do. These are my flaws. These are my weaknesses. I'm incapable beyond this. Help me out. Tell him, speak. And then one day the response will also start coming. Honesty is very important in Bhairava Upasana. And I personally, in this context, I have guided a lot of people into basic Bhairava sadhana in my life. Not complicated, basic ones.
Including me. But go on.
This is a lot of Bhairava sadhana. I believe that in the coming years and decades, it's very good to do Bhairava Upasana. A lot of the problems that we face as a country, as a civilization, is also due to the neglect of Bhairava Upasana at a certain level. See, Bhairava is the guardian of spaces. He is known as Kshetrapala. One of his names is. Kshetra means an area. He guards that area. Exactly like a dog is going to guard you if you have a friendship with a dog. Our country is a divine Kshetra. Whole country. So what have we actually seen? We have seen a partition, a very bloody partition of our land. What used to be at one point, part of it is gone, etc. So basically your borders have been rearranged. The Kshetra has been disturbed. A Kshetra can be disturbed when the Lord who guards the Kshetra has not been invoked properly.
Not been pleased?
Not been invoked and pleased and whatever. way you look at it. So that's my way of looking at it. Many of the, and even today, all the borders have problems, whether it's the Punjab side border or Kashmir or whatever, etc., have problems, etc. And this lack of Bhairava Upasana, by the way, started not just now, many centuries ago, when there are various invasions happened and knowledge systems were lost. So today the conception with Bhairava for average people is that, oh, koi gaon ka kuch devata hai, ye hai, wo hai, etc., some dark energy. Nothing of that sort. He is the most spiritual one. If you allow Baba to rule your life, he's going to make you completely spiritual. Okay, and he will make you fearless, and he will take you beyond your own deficiencies and things like that. And I've seen he responds very fast, by the way. Coming to the speed talking, there are for the sake of completeness of Bhairav Tattva. So it's believed that there are Rudra Yamal Tantra mentions that there are 64 Bhairavas. Okay. And of these 64, 8 of them are very important. Ashta Bhairava.
You want to just name them?
Yeah. Asitanga Bhairava, Rudu Bhairava, Chanda Bhairava, Krodha Bhairava, Unmatta Bhairava, Kapala Bhairava, Bhishana Bhairava, Samhara Bhairava.
No Kal Bhairava, Batuk Bhairava?
इसके भी ऊपर Realm. ठीक है. So as I said, we are never one. With one there are many always. They are all Bhairavas. But each Bhairava himself divides himself into so many to do various functions. Okay. And these Ashtabhairavas have their own domains. By the way, Kashi has Ashtabhairava temples. I think Almora has Ashtabhairava. I had been to the Ashtabhairava temple last month in Almora. Visited there for certain sadhanas. Beyond the 8 Bhairavas, they are also guardians of certain directions and certain particular kinds of things. Okay. So, for example, Asitanga Bhairava, if somebody gets the blessing of that, he will have exceptional knowledge. Multiple fields. Exceptional knowledge. He'll stand out. His knowledge will stand out. Then there is, so Samhara Bhairava, for example, if there is a problem with respect to spirits or something negative, then he can be invoked. He will relieve that problem, etc. So beyond Ashtabhairava, there is Kala Bhairava.
Above.
Kala Bhairava is basically, we find the story of Kala Bhairava from the Shiva Purana. How does he emerge? First, through Shiva's anger. So there is, the story is there that Brahmaji and Vishnu, they are having a conversation, and this story appears in multiple Puranas with slight changes. More or less the gist of it is that they are having a conversation who is greater. Okay, then Shiva appears and Brahma says that, oh, you are to my you are younger than me and all that, because Brahma is the creator of everything, etc. That means automatically I am more powerful, and some disparaging statements he makes on Shiva. Shiva gets angry, and from his anger Kal Bhairava comes out. Kal Bhairava uses the nail, I think, left hand little finger nail, and he cuts off Brahma's one head. Okay. Moment he does that, Brahma comes back to his senses. He says, no, you are Ishvara. Mera aukat nahi hai. And that head of Brahma sticks in his hand. Achha, very interestingly, when the section of Kala Bhairava comes in actually, the Shiva Purana says that there is no difference between Shiva and Bhairava. It is the Maya of Shiva that makes you see that these two are different. So Bhairava is not a Shiva Gana. He is Shiva only. Only different look, for practical purposes, you may look at it this way, that Shiva is the calm one. When he becomes Aghora, when he becomes Rudra, when he becomes more aggressive, then he becomes Bhairava.
Which for an average human being would mean like a more hustler version.
Sort of.
Like a more active.
More active. And also there is a difference, another difference, which is not there in the Shastra. No, it's there. I mean, it's not spelled out in that way. Another thing is that Bhairava is more closer to our realm. Shiva is more transcendental. Okay. He is closer. That is why when you call Bhairava, he will respond faster. If certain parameters are set in an individual. Okay. So that judgment has to be made by either a mentor or a guru or something, basically. He will come much faster. Achha. Then what Bhairava does is that skull of Brahma sticks to his hand. So that is the first instance of Brahma Hatya means killing of a Brahmin, which is considered to be a great sin. Okay, a genuine Brahmin in olden days, they used to do a lot of it's like killing a sadhak who is doing a lot of spiritual practice. If you kill a spiritual man, genuinely spiritual man, there is a huge amount of negative karma that is going to come. That is what is Brahma Hatya. When you are in those days specifically, when people of the Brahmin Varna were deeply engaged in practices and all those things. So
Nothing related to the modern day caste system. That
let's not go into the controversial area there,
yeah.
but just to explain this, basically he kills Brahma, and that is Brahma is himself a Brahmin, by the way. Okay? He gives the Vedas. So that is known as Brahma Hatya. Killing of a Brahmin is a very great sin. And that skull sticks to his hand. Okay. Very interestingly, the text calls it the Brahmanda Khappar. So what is it actually? Brahma is the creator of the universe. And here is a god who has cut off the head of the creator and holds it in his hand. Okay. Brahma Kapal. It's like as if he is holding the skull of the universe in his hand. And in that condition, immediately there is a woman that gets generated. That is Brahma Hatya. Brahma Hatya is the activity of killing a Brahmin. And that too not just any Brahmin. Brahma, who is like who gives out the Vedas and things like that. That sin takes a human form and becomes a woman, known as Brahma Hatya. And he stands behind Kal Bhairava. Okay. Shiva then tells Kal Bhairava that you do one thing. You demonstrate to the world that if a spiritual man a Brahmin is killed, okay, how do I do penance for that? Okay. So he goes with that skull in hand. He performs what is called the Mahavrata. Vrata means like we do vrata, Hanumanji ka vrat kar liya, ya kisi ka vrat kar liya, etc. Navratri ka vrat kar liya. This is a vrata, means a spiritual austerity. So Bhairava, with that skull in hand, he roams around different realms. He goes to the realm of Vishnu. Vishnu immediately recognizes, tells him that this is a play that you are doing. It's a Leela, because you are Shiva. You know it very well. Okay? You are doing this to demonstrate certain things to the world. And then that woman is behind him. That Brahmatya keeps walking behind him. That lady who is the sin. And that Brahmatya, Vishnu asks Brahmatya, why are you coming behind? And she says that this is my way of worshipping Shiva. Okay, I'm just following what he has instructed me to do. Finally, he keeps walking. He comes to Varanasi. In Varanasi, at a particular place, that skull falls from his hand. And he settles down there, Kashi. Okay, and that place is known as Kapal Mochan, where the skull falls down, etc. And Shiva says that anybody who's in Varanasi is like the permanent residence of Kala Bhairava. Okay, he stays there, and he stays in other places also, but Varanasi is got a special connection to Baba. Okay, so in the imitation of this, there is a Kapalika Vrata that used to happen. Even these days it's less, but used to happen. So there's a Kapalika initiation in Aghora, Tantra Marg, etc., where the Guru will give a skull to that individual, and like Bhairava, he has to stay for 12 years roaming around, not staying in a house, not staying anywhere. That only possession is that skull, that human skull. He goes around and he eats in that, he begs in that, and he doesn't stay in society. So at night you have to basically stay, whether it's a cremation ground or a forest or a lonely area. Okay, and you will survive this only if you have the blessings of Bhairava. After the 12 years you are made. You are divine. So this was called the Mahavrata. This is Kal Bhairava. Kal Bhairava, we see the first thing that we see in Kal Bhairava is that, see, if you analyze this, if you contemplate on this story, you will find that he starts with cutting Brahma's head. So there is the mainstream of sadhana, spirituality. Okay, that is going on constantly. Here is a deity who is completely heterodox, not orthodox, opposite of orthodox. He cuts off that the one who gives the Vedas, cuts off one of his head, and then he does something that is considered as defiling. Because Kal, normal spirituality, if you go to a cremation ground, you should take a bath and all that, there's a good reason for it. All that. Here is Baba who sits in the cremation ground, surrounded by everything that has been rejected by society. Whether it is dogs, wolves, jackals, spirits. He's known as Bhutesha, Bhutnatha, Lord of the Spirits. Okay. He consumes alcohol, something that is completely barred in normal upasana, etc. So Bhairava is like that. Shiva only, just a different form. Okay. And when speaking of Bhairava, there's another very important aspect that comes in. That's the Vatuka Bhairava. Without him, it's not complete. Vatuka Bhairava is worshipped more than Kala Bhairava. Kala Bhairava worship completely cannot be done at home. Vatuka, certain scriptures mention, Vatuka means a small child.
Like a Bal Shiva.
Yeah, 8-9-year-old child. So what Shakti does is that Vatuka is like a son of Kali. It's like a son of Matara. Okay, like a son of Chinnamasta. So there is this a child form is created who is given all kinds of powers in him. Okay, and he's tasked with the job of protecting the upasaka from every kind of trouble in the world, whether it is physical trouble, whether it is some kind of spirit, whether it's some other thing, etc., etc. Instead of trying to placate 100 different things, you just worship Vatuka and he will take care of you. And of the Bhairava, different forms of Bhairava Baba, Vatuka is the fastest of all. He responds very fast. With one catch, he's a child. Remember that. So you need some emotional connection.
Love.
Some degree of love, some degree of communication has to be there. If you ask, to give a simple example, if you have whatever, some obstacle, something is going on. So you worship Vatuka and you say that, Baba, can you help me out in this? Be very open. You are free to ask anything of the gods. Okay. So you ask him and he helps you out, suppose. Make sure that the next day at least you sit and tell him thank you.
If you say his mantra once, is that a good enough thank you? And if you feel a thank you and say a thank you?
It's up to you what you want to do, what comes from within. It's not for me to tell.
Okay.
I do Vishesh Pujas on specific Tithis for him, and if needed, if there is some help that comes from him and I have asked for help, minimum to minimum, next day morning I'll do 10 times his mantra. Okay, and just tell him that thank you very much, that for helping me. Some days if I feel like it, I order specific foods that he like. A lot of them, just like inviting a guest to the house. 3-4 different dishes and all that, and then it's all for yours.
Okay. Low level conversation.
Yeah.
Why did you ask me to do the Batuk Bhairav?
Oh, that is because that will be useful for you. In coming times, you'll see. And also, generally, if I advise people into Bhairava sadhana, there is a certain Nama mantra of Bhairava, very simple. Om Bhairavaya Nama, which just about anybody can do. I've in fact made certain videos of it also in my YouTube channel. So that is the starting point of Bhairava. And Vatuka Bhairava is easy to worship for a Grihastha. Grihastha means somebody who is staying in society, a normal person. Okay. Though the full realm of Bhairava Upasana cannot be done at home, but even if you succeed to 30 to 40%, that is good enough to make you spiritually powerful, as well as take care of your various material aspects. And this thing with Bhairava is if you develop trust on him, you will see that if in your life there's certain changes, both positive and negative, if something happens, then it is perhaps because at a later stage, a bigger problem is supposed to come. He is going to right away do the operation and, take you out of that.
The breakup.
I'm just saying.
Like I did it and the breakup happened in 2 weeks. Like it was great relationship, just flipped.
I'll not comment much on that, but yeah, Baba
Thanks,
protects you.
No, I'm kidding. I can't tell you how grateful I am to you because I'm seeing what's happening in my life post the breakup also.
He's wonderful. In last 20-30 years in India, 2 deity upasana has increased tremendously. One is Vatuk Bhairava and one is Ma Baglamukhi. That's for another reason, different reason.
Okay. Well, that's going to be in the Mata podcast that we will do. One last question in today's episode.
Yeah.
As I'm growing older, I'm realizing the power of mantras, and we've spoken about mantras on multiple episodes. So we don't have to kind of address the basics. This is kind of a more advanced mantric question. I don't know if that's the correct grammar. But why are there certain stronger words in tantric mantras like sham, 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 phat, reem? Words that make you feel something.
So these are Vija mantras. I think last time we talked about, just touched upon it, Vija mantras. So these mantras, How did they originate? So that's a difficult question, but let's assume that these were heard by rishis or the great masters who were the originators of the path, and each of them have a specific potency and power in them. For example, now after a certain level of sadhana is done, the rule is that you cannot utter the Vija mantra loud. After a certain level of sadhana is done, okay. Every other word in the mantra you can utter loud. Vija you will not utter loud at a certain level. So, for example, this Vija that you specifically asked sometime earlier.
Because you can't say it.
I don't want to say it.
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Reem.
Yeah. So there are two things in this. This is a very powerful, interesting Vija. This is known in Tantras as the Maya Vija also. Because this destroys your Maya. And gives you a vision which is beyond Maya if it gets fully activated. Okay. It has this potency. Tremendous potency. And there are certain sadhanas where only this Vija is doing, people do japa of this, nothing before, nothing after. This is in Tantras, this Vija is considered to be equivalent to the Omkara of the Vedic path.
But it's also dangerous too.
No, none of the Vijas are dangerous. There's nothing called dangerous.
I ask you that because I have a friend who's experimental with mantras. He said that he began doing some Kal Bhairav mantra by listening to it with a earphone. Went into meditation and 15 minutes his head started hurting a lot.
Oh, that could be. So, these are anecdotal. I can't comment on this without knowing the individual. Okay. But no, this is not at all harmful. Okay. In fact, one of the potencies of this Vija is used in multiple mantras. This is also one of the Vija mantras connected to the Mahavidya known as Bhuvaneshwari. Okay. Devi Bhuvaneshwari. When blessings of this Vija comes to an individual, because he goes beyond Maya slightly, I'm not saying fully though it takes a lot of time, but a little bit. So there are a lot of positive developments also that will come to him. Okay. Bhuvaneshwari is a deity who can give you, again, there's always a caveat because there are many factors. Who is doing it, whether he or she has the concentration, whether he can take their energy or not correctly. Lot of material growth. Okay. At the same time, it will give you a clarity in vision. Certain amount of clarity in vision of if you are very attached to something, that is what is Maya. Fundamentally, the attachment is Maya, nothing else.
To a person, to a thing,
anything.
To a goal.
वही तो मैं बोला, when your attachment to the phone is also Maya to some degree. We all create our own Mayas. So, depending on how much attached you are to whatever it is, that is your Maya. Okay. So, and the degree of attachment you have, you are also open to that degree of pain eventually. Because everything will go at the end one day. Okay. That's the one thing that everybody agrees on, whether you are spiritual or whether you are atheist. You are going to die, I am going to die. Okay. The moment you are dead, it's finished. But that particular Vija is actually a very positive Vija. It is considered to be just like Omkara in the Tantric field. And it brings about lot of, it reduces the, what you call it, it can reduce clarifies your vision. So Maya clouds your vision. Attachment, the problem with attachment is that it clouds your vision. You cannot see properly. A person who is detached will be able to make a clearer judgment. Okay. So it clarifies your vision. It also brings you blessings, that Vija. Acha. This one is used in a multiple amount of mantras. It's very common Vija. Okay, very common. Whereas the other Vija that you mentioned,
I said Phat.
That is to end something. That is particularly given in a mantra when you need a specific force to end, means not necessarily end in a negative sense. Sometimes you have to end something that is negative.
Again, attachment.
No, not necessarily. Somewhere you see, it actually depends on the mantra, but more or less. There
was a Kal Bhairav mantra which had Phat in it, which I had heard.
It could be. Many mantras have that. Many different deities mantras have that. So for example, you see somebody that trying to cause some harm. Okay. Directly you are seeing that somebody is trying to cause some harm. So you may use a mantra with this particular Vija that will work in a certain way to stop that person from causing harm. So this Vija is something to stop. Okay. But ठीक है. और इसमें the pronunciation has to be PH, not F.
But
Ha, not fan. Because the fa pronunciation is not there in Sanskrit. Pa. Understood? Like this, there are innumerable vijas. In fact, one who is an expert in Mantra Shastra can create a vija also. You can create a vija of a person's name. Now, don't ask me to create a vija of your name, but I'm just saying. You can create a vija of a person's name. You can, if you're that good in Mantra Shastra, if you know something's name, technically you can access that thing's energy. Mantra Shastra that we have in our Dharma is perhaps the most advanced. And I have had interactions, by the way, with people of in Western occult, little bit interactions. At one point, when I was not, my path was still not very deep here, still exploring. I used to have a lot of friends. I remember there was one occultist I knew from West. It's pretty good. And one of his very peculiar, interesting habits was that he used to go and search for haunted places, spend the night there. Okay. And he had weirdest experiences. He used to tell me. And he was good friends with me. I've never met him. Never met him. Only online communication. And I knew few of them who had serious abilities also, by the way. So they could sit there and tell me what dress I'm wearing and what was I doing yesterday and what am I doing and all that. Though they've never met me and nothing. They didn't even know my name, by the way, because I used to interact with them through a pseudonym or something like that. So this guy, I remember I had given him once he was facing some issues with it was his pastime. And I found it very interesting. And a lot of people like that I knew at that time. I had given him a Bhairava mantra, Vatuka Bhairava mantra. And then he comes back after a month and says that this is bloody magic. Whenever I am in trouble with these entities. And he used to do a lot of japa. Okay, he learned the pronunciation, how to do it. It was difficult for him to get the pronunciation right because he is not Indian. But after that, he used to do crazy amount of japa of that mantra. And he says that whenever he used to go into some kind of where there's a negative energy, the moment he starts with all this, they don't disturb him. They don't come near. So Vatuka is a child, but Vatuka has all the powers of Kal Bhairava. Only he's a child.
Okay. For the everyday listener who may not sit and do 108 time chant of the mantra, I just want to mention that you gave me something called the Bhairav Chalisa also, which is very similar to the Hanuman Chalisa, and you said that just play it at the end of your meditation or meditate upon it. I felt like even that brought a lot of change.
Yeah. That is very, very, very beautiful.
Even though it doesn't have tantric words in it.
See, that's what, in a way, Bhairav Baba is kind. Compared to other devatas, if certain parameters are set in an individual, if you take one step towards him, he will take 2 steps towards you.
What are the parameters?
So that is a judgment. Before giving a higher mantra, that's a judgment I make after interacting with an individual or something like that. I can't explain to you here because there are few other things. But more or less, the basic mantra, which is Om Bhairavaya Namah, is a Nama mantra. Lot of people I know do it. And especially after, before also I've met people do it, but after the last time podcast and a lot of people who came to me and mailed me and all that. So this is a very good mantra to do. Yes, there is a certain nature of the Devata that is there. Bhairava is strict. So as I mentioned, more or less if certain fundamentals are there, means Bhairav's Vidya, his tattva is that he makes you fearless. By not running away from things that you have run away, you face it. Oh, there's this caption that used to come, kya pata nahi, dar ke aage jeet hai, waise. She's like that. Baba will put you right in that situation, face it. Face it, face it. After that, you will be immune to the fear. Okay, that is his tattva. So, if a person can take that amount, then Bhairava Upasana is very good. For one, this, and number 2 is that the most ultimate blessing that Bhairava gives an individual, it is not on day 1, by the way, it comes later. At a very advanced stage, he can teach you tantras, which nobody else in the world can teach. There is a certain amount of tantric vidyas which we know. Tantra Shastra, he is the guru of tantras. It is the tantras all come from him. Okay, he is the boss. He is the boss man. Okay, Nobody knows Tantra Vidya like he does. He teaches as a spiritual aspect. I'm not talking about the avichara and negative things on Tantra. No, I'm saying how to do Devata Upasana. Bhairava blesses you. There are certain forms of Devi Upasana. Without Bhairava's blessing, you'll never succeed. There are hundreds of people today who do Devi Upasana. All of them. Mata to is so popular, and plus Navratris are there, this, that, etc. there. But the amount of people who succeed in Devi Upasana is still lesser. Because the original rule, niyama, was that you worship Bhairava. As you worship Bhairava after a few years, he is the one who will tell you how to actually go close to her. And there is a very tight and very beautiful relation between Bhairava and Shakti. Very beautiful relation. So, one of the roots of succeeding in Devi Upasana is first to please Bhairav Baba. He holds the keys. He will tell you where is the route going, where you will reach. Okay. Otherwise, you can do normal bhakti. That's all fine. People do that all the time. Go to the temple, little bit of some, Devi mantra, ye wo karlo, etc. I am talking about succeeding it, going to the ultimate stage. That is where Bhairava becomes very important. And as I mentioned also, on Ashtami Tithi specifically, me and there's a group of people whom I guide. So we do on every Ashtami, we do specific amount of japa of Bhairava. And that together we complete close to 2 lakh japas of Bhairava mantra on that one day with one sankalpa for the uplift of dharma. Okay. Generic sankalpa for uplift of dharma. And along with it, we feed people and annadanam, and there are specific pujas we get in Bhairav temples done, etc. So we've been doing that for quite some time now. So Ashtami Tithi specifically, the people who are connected and do this, they are people who have at least completed that simple mantra Om Bhairavaya Namah, that japa at least 1 lakh. 1 lakh means 1000 malas, which takes few months. But if that is done, then it's like he's tied himself to the energy of Baba. And the beauty of this mantra is that this is a generic mantra of Bhairava. If a person keeps doing this, some of the other form of Bhairava will bless you.
How?
But first of all, he's not going to come directly in front of you by causing certain changes in your life, which eventually is going to go into a positive direction. See, there are two options. When you start a mantra sadhana, just positive things may happen. And sometimes it may start with a negative. But always remember this, if it starts with a negative, it is because down the line somewhere it is going to have caused a larger problem. Larger amount of pain and suffering were in store at some other point. In order to, they cannot just wish it away completely, but they say that, okay, let's reduce it. Give it to him in a 1/3 or 1/10 of that. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say that if your destiny is, suppose that you are just, a man's destiny is that he's walking and he hits his leg and says his leg is to be cut off or something like that. If he does sadhana, mantra sadhana and all that, it's possible that nature may decide, okay, I will not do anything, just a pinprick in the leg. So it's balancing the karmas. Of course, he must have done that amount of sadhana. So that is how if somebody is able to take Bhairava Upasana a little bit, it's beautiful.
And it can begin by simply sitting in one place and just chanting out the mantra.
Or even the Chalisa.
Listening
to the Chalisa, yes.
Listening to the Chalisa.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
As simple as that. If you want to increase it a little bit more, anybody who wants to do, listen to the Chalisa, learn the Chalisa, light one diya, put one agarbatti, okay, and put some food. We call it bhog and anything. In fact, things made of gur are very
potent.
He loves it. Kuch nahi ho to gur ka batasha you can find, keep it and give it. Okay, there's a long list of food items he likes. He likes, for example, vada. Vada is one of the things. Vada is considered to be a vegetarian alternative of meat.
Vada?
Vada means we have idli vada.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like dal ka.
Yeah, urad dal ka.
Urad dal ka pattis.
Urad dal is considered as a substitute for meat.
Gotcha.
Okay. Good. Coconut water. These things. So, even if not this, whatever is being cooked at home, that too can be offered with bhakti. He responds very fast.
We've only done podcasts till this point to understand Shiva. This was the first podcast where we made Shiva accessible to the end user.
Yeah.
I just hope audiences understand the importance of this particular episode. How was it for you, sir?
Oh, it was wonderful. I always love speaking of Bhairava and Shiva.
Okay. You do know that the sequel to this is where we're going to break down Devis.
We'll
So
speak.
I'm just curious to see what tangents we go on. Very deep. This was even deeper than I expected. And at many points during my other episodes with other people, I know where to stop. Today was one of the first places where I didn't know where to stop. And I was just...
And I'll tell you this. Shiva and Bhairava. Imagine the total amount of knowledge of Shiva and Bhairava is like this. I as an individual know maybe 25% of it. What we discussed today is 1% of the 25%.
Okay. Cool. I'm glad we didn't have to talk about Bhoot Pret on this one, Rajarshi Nandy. So. But we'll do that also maybe at some other point. Today was just a Shiva special.
Yeah.
Thank you. You've closed a big chapter in my life, or maybe opened up a big chapter in my life with this.
As Baba
episode.
will sit.
I appreciate you, sir. And looking forward to speaking to you in 5 minutes. But the audience will see it in a few weeks. So thank you.
Jai Bhairav Baba.
Jai Bhairav Baba. That was the conversation for today. The first conversation was based on Shiva and Bhairav. The second conversation we had was so long and so deep that we had to divide it into two parts. That one's based much more on Devi Ma and the feminine aspect of Tantra. Lots more coming up with Rajarshi Nandy sir. We also recorded an episode just about astrology. That's a little bit theoretical. It's a bit of a 101 on astrology, but it's got some extremely advanced astrological insights. So please make sure you watch the next 3 episodes with Rajarshi Nandy. You're not ready for the kind of content that's coming your way. Tell me what you thought of this episode, this kind of an open-ended conversation, this free-flowing style conversation. Tell me what you're thinking of all these extra long podcasts that we've been uploading lately. I'd love to know your opinions. And until next time, guys, keep supporting TRS and Rajarshi Nandy sir.